Chapter 81 Titans Rampage 2. POV Jean Grey A.K. A Marvel Girl. Few moments before Megapede's defeat. What is the meaning of this? We were only helping civilians and the injured. We were surrounded by a group of soldiers and 2 armored vehicles. Soldier, put your hands in the air and stand down or you will be fired on, the lead soldier yelled, and after a moment of hesitation we did, but Light Fury didn't. Cyclops, Light Fury, do as they say. I tried to connect to her mind, but it didn't work fully and all I got back was her emotions. They were a jumbled mess, and looking closer I saw she was trembling a little. Wolverine, everyone take cover, he yelled into the communicators. I erected a psychic shield around us and the soldiers. Not a second later the blast hit the shield and it almost broke upon the impact of the explosion, but the worst was the heat. But then my shield was reinforced and I turned to see Light Fury holding her hands up, both emitting a soft blue glow. Nightcrawler, whoa, that was close, he said in wonder, but was brought back to their current situation by the sound of a turret being pointed in his direction. Soldier, what just happened? What did you freaks do? I barely needed to scan their minds to feel their emotions, fear and confusion becoming anger. Cyclops, it was probably the others taking down the Titan. If we could just dash, but the barrel of a gun shoved in Scott's face to shut him up. Soldier, you aren't doing shit until I get further orders. He looked to someone behind him. Tie them up. A few soldiers got out zip ties and came forward. Light Fury, but we sniffed didn't dash, she said, and I felt her emotions become more chaotic as the soldiers got closer to us. Then, scree. Soldier, what the hell was that? What did you just do? The soldiers and their armored vehicles pointed their weapons at Light Fury, but Light Fury said nothing, but I couldn't help but noticed how the cry echoed throughout the city. Wolverine, put your guns down now. Logan landed on the street walking towards the soldiers. Soldier, and why would I listen to you? The lead soldier asked, still holding his gun up to Light Fury. Wolverine just pointed towards where he fell from. Everyone looked up. Image here. Light Fury, Papa. She jumped for joy and ran towards Night Fury, who jumped down from the building to meet her, still glaring down at the group of soldiers who stayed silent and didn't raise their guns. Wolverine, Hank, bring the jet around for pickup. And what's the news? The other Titans, he asked, leaving Night Fury to continue to stare down the group of soldiers even as Light Fury hugged him, completely oblivious to her now confirmed father's current glare towards the soldier. Beast, currently all Titans are being engaged. The giant bat in France is being dealt with by Zilla, Martian Manhunter, War Machine, and French armed forces. Cyclops, what about Berlin and Seoul? Beast, German armed forces are being assisted by Superman and Wonder Woman, while Korean forces are being assisted by Shazam, Iron Man, Batman, and some locals, but it seems they're having some difficulty with the creature. Night Fury, I'll head towards Seoul to assist there. Night Fury picked up Light Fury, and I think one Titan is far more than enough action for you, don't you think? Light Fury disagree as she began to struggle to escape her father's embrace. Once that failed, she went limp like a noodle, hoping to slip away. I and others couldn't hold back a chuckle. Cyclops, then we're heading towards Europe. Just then the Blackbird came down. I turned back to Night Fury to see that both Furies were already gone. POV Night Fury. I had just teleported away, now standing in the living area of Nighthawk Island. A quick scan and I didn't see any of the little ones, probably outside playing. I set Artnix down and activated my DcMcu. Gabuman, going to need you guys for this one. I heard replies of confirmation, but I focused on the glare Artnix was giving me. Listen, this Titan is too dangerous for you. I know you're strong, but reacting to lighting is not something out of your league for now, so rest and look after your brothers, okay? Artnix, okay, she said while nodding her head. A moment later 2 beams of lights flashed and went into my DcMcu. Looking down at its screen I saw the pixel art of both my Digimon jumping up and down. I gave them a thumbs up and patted Artnix's head before teleporting to the middle of the Pacific. The takeoff to South Korea. POV Tony Stark A.K. Iron Man. Location, Seoul, South Korea. Few minutes before the defeat of Megapede. Jarvis, please tell me you got something. I blasted falling debris that would have fallen on a group of students as I followed the strangle-looking Titan's path of destruction. The creature appears to have the ability to control and absorb electricity and shift into a form of pure energy. I fired a few test blasts and found my energy blasts did nothing to the creature as I tried to think of a way to contain the creature, only for my thoughts to be interrupted by a large pillar of ice appearing in front of the creature, stopping its path of destruction. Before I could even say what just happened, I saw a young woman propelling herself on an ice walkway, leaving behind a trail of ice. Who the hell is that? I asked no one in particular, unconsciously expecting Jarvis to answer my question. Batman, Luna Snow aka Seal, he an up-and-coming K-pop star with the group 4L1T. The batting flew right up next to me without me, Jarvis, or the suits noticing, or how he connected to my armor's communication systems without us knowing. Either irritated me, but I tried to not let it show in my voice. So the Dark Knight listens to K-pop, nice to know. I heard nothing in return, so I count that as a win. I flew down towards the creature as Luna Snow created another large wall of ice behind the creature, trapping it, but the Titan had other ideas as it lifted its fist and brought it down on the ice wall in front of it, cracking and destroying the obstacle in one punch. The Titan seemed to celebrate its freedom, but then it was blown back by a powerful gust of wind that threw it into the other ice wall, giving Luna Snow time to create another ice wall, capturing the Titan once again. Looking to find the source of the wind, I see the red, white, and gold of Shazam. Strurry. The Titan let out a roar of pure raged white electricity arched across its body. It looked towards its would-be captor and opened its maw and unleashed a beam of pure white energy. No. I blasted off and flew just above the Titan, and I fired a barrage of mini-missiles, but that did nothing but leave scorch marks on its body. The Titan a few moments later shut its mouth and walked through the space that was 3 blocks of the city just a moment ago. Batman, Tony, scan for any life. I'll follow the Titan. As I hovered over the smoke, I knew nothing could survive something like that, until my systems locked onto 2 life forms. Using my stabilizers to blow the dust and debris away, I saw a gold transparent dome shield, and inside were an unconscious Luna Snow and a tired-looking Shazam holding his hands out, generating the shield. Oh my god, Shazam, you okay? I got no replies as I landed next to the dome, only for the dome to disappear, and he quickly caught Shazam before he fell. Hey big guy, you alright? He got a grunt in response and he looked at the unconscious girl. A quick scan by Jarvis showed she was fine. Shazam, Tony. Is she? I nodded but looked up as the once unconscious girl was sitting up. He got a good look at her and what caught his attention was her mismatched eyes, one purple the other brown. Luna, what happened? She held her head for a moment only for her eyes to shoot open and look around. Where's the monster? She asked, looking around and seeing the destruction around them. A/N. Okay, to be clear, Luna is speaking Korean. The reason it's English is because of 3 reasons. 1. Tony has an AI that can translate for him. 2. Shazam has the wisdom of Solomon. 3. Batman is Batman. Okay, good, now back to our irregularly scheduled chapter. Giant electric lobster with fists, it went that way, I said, pointing to where the sounds of explosions were coming from as I helped Shazam to his feet. Shazam, I think we can come up with a better name, he said with a chuckle. Luna, how are we going to stop that thing? Bullets and missiles do nothing to it and I'm not sure freezing it with a blast of ice will do anything. The questioning in the air and I couldn't help but be glad I wore a helmet to hide my face. Batman, if you're all done resting, we have lives to save. We all looked at each other and nodded. If we couldn't stop the creature we could save lives until backup arrived. Chapter 82 Titans Rampage 3. POV Zilla. Fuck this stupid bat. My anger was released as a roar as I followed the giant bat's flight path and unleash atomic flame, but the bat maneuvered in the last moments, avoiding the green fire. Son of a bitch, stay still, I roared. Asterisk cree kr asterisk kr. Make me stupid lizard, ha, ha, ha. As the bat laughed, a hail of bullets and missiles caused by the war machine who flew towards its face caused it to stumble and slow down just enough for me to bite onto its leg. It let out a cry of pain as I forced it to crash into the ground, and the bat swiftly turned to face me only to get blasted in the face, sending the bat sprawled onto the ground. Putting a foot on its chest, I roared in its face using Titan's aura, Beta's roar and Monster's roar, and for a long moment throw echo of my roar was the only thing heard, and the bat let its head hit the ground. Then multiple blue screens appeared as I took my foot off the bat's chest, letting it up. New skills acquired. Titan's aura -- alpha aura. Beta's roar -- alpha's call. Alpha aura. Your presence makes those around you nervous and in awe. Your presence bolsters Mother Nature in your territory and immediate area, as such animals can be drawn to you. Your emotions can cause extra effects. Alpha's call. A specialized roar that all Titans can hear or feel from any end of the earth. Can be used to command all Titans on the planet to sleep, awaken, attack, gather, etc. Other Alpha Titans can ignore your call. Title gained? Alpha Titan. As an Alpha Titan you have shown to be very powerful and a natural-born ruler to other Titans. Mission, Dawn of the Titans. Titans are waking up to a new world and wish to explore and claim new territory for themselves. Help stop the Titans from rampaging across the world. Titans defeated 3/5. Once I had finished reading and dismissing the screens, I turned towards where the next Titan would, but before I left I turned towards the bat that now bowed on its feet, index of on its back, and gave it its commands. Grrrrrrr***. Patrol, protect. It gave a nod of its head before taking off into the sky. I didn't even wait for it to get above the clouds as I made my way to Germany. As I did, I looked around me at the current convoy of vehicles and aircraft following me. Then War Machine flew by my head and after a moment I felt the familiar sensation of a psychic probing trying to connect to my mind. I brushed it off as easily as all the other times, but unlike the other times where others got the hint to back off, this time the psychic probing felt much more forceful. Like from a light knock on a door to someone pounding on. My instincts took over. I turned my head to face what looked like nothing but empty sky. I opened my maw and my dorsal spines glowed rapidly with a green glow. The psychic probing stopped immediately and War Machine flew in front of me, arms out, weapons put away. I closed my maw but stared daggers at him and whoever was hidden for a few seconds before continuing my course. POV Tony Stark A.K. Iron Man. Location, Seoul, South Korea. What will it take to put this thing down? I yelled to no one in particular. Things had gone from bad to worse in just a few minutes. This thing had far more tricks than any other Titan so far. As it absorbed power and electricity, it grew in size and strength, going from 3 stories tall to 5. It noticed the attacks from Batman and I, but Luna and Shazam kept the thing busy enough to get civilians out of immediate danger. Just as things seemed hopeless, with another barrier of ice encasing the creature was broken with ease and Shazam was bashed into a building. Suddenly, the area went crimson red. I thought for a second my optics were damaged. I noticed the Titan stop its rampage and look around only to get blindsided by what looked like a meteor made of steel and covered in blood. Red flames crashed into the Titan, causing it and the meteor to crash outside the city. Shazam, what was that? He yelled with far fewer curses than I would have used. Batman, Iron Man, Shazam, go and scout ahead but don't engage. I didn't need to be told twice as I took off, but as I watched the dust cloud around the crater I saw the flashes of white and red and the occasional bolt of electricity fires out of the cloud. Then out of the cloud came a different monster entirely from what we had been fighting. Dragon was the first word I would use to describe it, but instead of being covered in scales it looked like it was made of steel, and as it adjusted itself in the sky, listed of flapping its wings, 2 crimson jets of energy helped it hover in the air. Shazam, that is so cool, he said, and a second later turned to me. What is that thing? He asked, and I shook my head. Just as I did so our attention was back on the new monster that in a moment got smaller, now looking like a human in armor. Its wings and tail were still present but now only just smaller. Batman, it's Night Fury. Looks like he revealed a new ability, he said, his voice as monotone as ever, but I could swear I heard a tone of something else, but I had no idea what. Night Fury, alright guys, let's see your training in action, he said, and I wondered who he was talking to when in a flash of light the 2 little monsters appears by his side. One looked like a black-scaled baby Trex, the other a weird-looking dog thing. Black Agumen Digivol to Greymon. Black Abumen Digivol to Black Garuruman. Okay, now I'm confused about what just happened. This had to be a record amount of time of me not understanding what was happening around me. Both creatures in a flash of light transformed into what looked like adult versions of themselves. Night Fury, just like we trained together, he roared as the red flames from his wings seemed to become unstable. Night Fury, fire, multiple crimson red balls of energy fired from its wings. Greymon, Nova Blast, a huge ball of flames launched forward. B.Geruruman, Foxfire, a torrent of blue flames came forth. The attacks sent forward combined halfway to their target, becoming a ball of red, blue, and orange flames. The Titan fires a blast of electricity colliding with the flaming ball, but it did nothing to slow it down. Instead, it seemed to be making the ball bigger until it collided with the Titan. Boom! The explosion pushed me back and caused my display to glitch. Shazam had to cover his face, and for a moment comms were down. Sir, that explosion was more powerful than a GBU-43/B Moab. Strurry. My face dropped into a frown at the information, only then to turn into one of panic as with a rage-filled roar, the Titan rushed out of the crater it was in, out of the dust cloud towards Night Fury's group, but neither Night Fury nor the two strange creatures did anything to intervene as the Titan closed the distance only to spasm and drop to the ground unmoving. POV Night Fury. A few minutes later, I stood at the head of the Crackler, one of Zilla JR's tougher enemies, but unlike in the show, it wasn't connected to some guy's mental issues. Both Aguman and Gabuman had reverted back to their rookie forms and returned to my DG Vice after the battle was over. Then a blue screen appeared and I smiled as I read, Mission, Dawn of the Titans, completed. Titans are waking up to a new world and wish to explore and claim new territory for themselves. Help stop the Titans from rampaging across the world. Titans defeated 5/5. Hidden objective, failed. Submit all 5 Titans. Reward, 1 free evolution pill. Once taken, a creature will hold to the next stage of evolution. 2 force imbued blades. 2 swords, 1 dark, 1 light. 1 free transformation. New monster to wreak havoc and have fun with. Before I could make any real thought about my rewards, Batman and a girl who I didn't recognize came down a path of ice, making his way towards me. Taking my attention from the Crackler, I turned to the Dark Knight of Gotham. Batman, Night Fury, I assume you'll be staying to help Monarch with containment. For a second I wanted to make an excuse to bail, go home and check out my new stuff, but of course, I'll even help with cleaning up what damage the Crackler left behind. I said I needed to spend more time with Monarch, and helping build containment around the Titan sounded like the perfect excuse. I mean, how long could that take, right? Chapter 83, One Possible Future. POV Night Fury. Hours later. Location, penthouse. In an instant, I was in my penthouse. The first thing I noticed was my duplicate sitting and watching TV. Max, finally you show up. What took you so long? He looked at me and grimaced. Geez, what happened to you? Helped Monarch set up a containment sit around the Cracker. I sat down next to my clone Slash on the couch, and even helped clean up some of the damage around Soul. Then I had to go to a meeting, and it was a lot more than I thought it would be. I leaned forward and felt a pat on my back. Max, well, it's all over now, so chin up, big guy. Time for us to combine and for you to get some good news. I nodded my head and we shook hands, and in a flash, my other disappeared. But then in an instant, I got a splitting headache as my clone's experience and memories became mine. I sat down for what felt like hours as my head now cleared up, going over everything that happened. Looking outside, the sky was dark, barely illuminated by the moon. My body and mind demanded sleep. But I couldn't, mostly because after what happened last time with me sleeping for days, I couldn't risk that happening again. I had shit to do, like going over my new items, so I teleported to Nighthawk Island. Once there, I checked on the kids, finding all 4 in the living area asleep on the couch with snacks all over the table, frozen, playing on the projector. After a quick roundup and cleanup while also letting my Digimon out to do as they please, I made my way to the training room. The first thing I checked was my new sword, the Sith Warblade, and the Jedi Great Sword. Both were twin black blades, but the Sith blade had red runes while the other had none. Sith Warblade, a sword infused with the dark side of the Force. X2 damage to light side Force users. Increase your connection to the dark side. Jedi Greatsword, a sword induced with the light side of the Force. X2 damage to dark side Force users. Increase your connection to the light side. I should have seen that coming. They're just the opposite of each other. I shook my head. The only reason I would use either is that they can block lightsabers and blaster bolts, but that only mattered if I went to the Star Wars universe. Would you like me to sell them in the shop? I thought about it for a moment, but so far the system had yet to give me a useless item. Well, I might as well test them out first. I went to grab the Sith Warblade, and as my hand gripped the handle, I was no longer in the training room. I was on a throne, in unfamiliar armor. Looking around, I was in a throne room, but as I looked around I felt a hand grab mine, and I looked to see Jean Grey, a much more mature Jean, sitting on a throne of her own. She wore a crown made to look like the phoenix. Her hair was wild and looked like fire. She wore a green dress with gold and black with the phoenix in the center. As I turned my head back to look around, I was no longer sitting on the throne. I was now outside, an army of humans, Zerg, Grim, and dinosaurs marching forward. Then I heard roars up above, and I looked up and saw flocks of dragons of all shapes, sizes, and colors flying in formation with griffins, pegasuses, and giant eagles, and above them, I saw the silhouette of gigantic creature high above them, which could only be Titans. Are you sure I'm ready for this? At my right was a young boy around my age. He wore casual, if a bit formal wear. He has bright green eyes with black hair, and there was something familiar about him. Image. Would I have given you this small force if I didn't think so? My voice was deeper, but that was not what caught my attention. Small force. I looked out at the thousands of humans and monsters marching and flying in formation. No, but the territory you've given me is quite big, and there are much older Titans that would be better at keeping the peace. The boy said. I looked him over once more and saw he had Dawn and Notch's longbow on his back. If it was just other Titans that need to be kept in check, I would have done it myself, but I choose you because I know you can keep the peace between all creatures in your soon-to-be territory. Jason. If I could, my eyes would be the size of saucers. Jason, he looks fantastic. Wait, I'm giving him an army to conquer territory. Who is he conquering? Suddenly my vision turned to black. When my vision returned, I was in a field. Behind me I heard the growls of monsters and the movement of armor. Then the flapping of wings caught my attention, and in the sky coming down was a gigantic black dragon with purple eyes. Landed not too far away. Then it shifted and took the shape of a girl in armor walking up to me. Image. How does it look? Luna. My little hatchling becomes that. I looked over future Luna. She wore dark armor that had a glossy shine to it. On her left was Herobrine's blade, and on her back was Trident of the Drowned Sea. Luna, the Ender Legion is ready for your order. She turned towards the empty field standing by my side. Why do they seek this conflict? We have done nothing to the Asgardians. I put a hand on her shoulder. Change scares those in power. What do you think an old fart like Odin thinks of all the change I am bringing to Midgard? Just then a beam of light came down from the sky and out of it came two figures. Odin in golden armor, spear in hand. On his multi-legged horse next to him a chariot pulled by two goats stood Thor wearing his armor with Mjolnir in his now metal hand. Odin, Draco I Odin king of Asgard and protector of the 9 realms have come to end your rampage on Midgard. His voice was heard by all as it boomed across the field. Odin I Max Draco king of all monsters, king of Hollow Earth and soon to be king of Midgard, recognize you and your son as a guest on my world. Odin did nothing but Thor growled and sparks appeared across his armor. Midgard is under the protection of Asgard as it is one of the 9 realms of Yggdrasil. Your actions have brought enough chaos to this realm. You will return to your grovel under the earth's crust and stay there. His voice was that of finality. You have no right to order me to do anything. This is an internal matter of Midgard. You cannot intervene. I put a hand on the pommel of my sword. Odin's grip tighter around his spear. Odin, do you truly think you can face the might of Asgard and walk away unscathed? I watched as his one eye looked at Luna and back to me. Not only that, but I will rise even stronger. I drew my sword and I heard the unsheathing of blades and the roars of monsters behind me. Odin, then so be it. Behind him in a flash of colorful lights an army clad in golden armor appears with flying ships, siege weapons, trolls and giants with Valkyries on Pegasuses. Valkyries warriors, your seats in Valhalla are promised. Return these monsters to the holes they crawled from. Kill them all. For the All-Father. Thor is with us. Valkyrie, for Midgard, for Odin, for Asgard. The Asgardians charge forward, their boats fire cannons of elemental magics and siege weapons launched massive bolts and boulders. Ruoar. The roars of my army echoed as they rushes past me towards the Asgardians' army. Luna jumped into the air and transformed back into her dragon form, rushing forward. I joined my forces in the charge just as the two armies clashed. Artnix, Papa, can we have pancakes? Looking down I saw Artnix wipe her eyes. Her hair was a mess with Tommy and Jason barely were awake, almost falling asleep before waking up with a jolt as Luna rested on her head. I looked around. I was back in the training room, not leading an army but back, and looking down I saw the Sith warblade griped in my hand, never having moved. Artnix, Papa. I shook my head and gave her a smile, picking all three up. Heck, yeah, how does chocolate pancakes sound? I could a round of excited cheers as I lifted them out of the training room, leaving both force swords where they stayed. A/N, hope you guys like the early chapter. Chapter 84, A Monster Underneath. POV Max. Why did I have to grab that stupid sword? I sat in class trying not to fall asleep, my mind far more exhausted than my body, but as a consequence of that, my more monstrous instincts were far harder to control. Right now I was Enderman, the only one of my monsters that wasn't telling me to kill all the noisy prey around me and fall asleep, but I was having a really hard time fighting the instinct to just teleport away or to the end. Now some might wonder why I don't just become human. Well, because I would probably pass out from the mental exhaustion. But being an Enderman also meant I had to actively avoid looking people in the eye, which became annoying very quickly. As I sat looking down at my desk doodling, I felt a tap on my shoulder. Looking over I saw Jean giving me a worried look and held up a note. Are you okay? I smiled and gave her a thumbs up, but by the look on her face, she didn't believe me. The date with Jean went well. I gave her a tour of New York on my dual runner and saw a movie after. Once we got back to her place we just hung out and talked, and I got first-hand experience of how crazy a house with mutants teenagers could get. Flashback. As we sat on the couch talking, Kurt teleported into the kitchen undisguised listening to music. I pretended not to notice and I don't think Jean noticed since she has her back to the kitchen and I was side on. Suddenly Kitty phased through the front door only to stop seeing Kurt dancing undisclosed in the open kitchen with headphones on, then looked at me and Jean talking on the couch unaware. She quickly rushed and tackled Kurt to the ground, causing Jean and me to look over. Kitty, you idiot, Max is right there and you're dancing around undisguised in the kitchen. She whispered, yelling. I heard the click and standing up was a disheveled Kitty with an awkward smile and Kurt, now disguised, waving to the both of us. Jean, Kitty, Kurt, what's going on? She asked with a raised eyebrow. Kurt, nothing, just grabbing a quick snack, isn't that right, Kitty? She nodded quickly and she began to push Kurt out of the kitchen and up the stairs. Kitty, yeah, sorry to bother you on your date, we'll be going now, she said as they made their way upstairs. I heard Kitty berate Kurt and I couldn't hold back a smile. Flashback end. After a few more minutes class ends and we're off to lunch. After getting my food I found my spot with the X-Men. Evan, Max, you feeling alright? You look a little, he dragged out, trying to find the right word. Kitty, tired. Kitty suggest and Evan nodded. I merely shrugged, not looking up from my food. I didn't get much sleep last night, I said. I felt a pat on my back which I knew was Kurt. Just then a commotion was heard outside, then the cafeteria doors flew open and a river of sand came crashing in. For a moment the screaming and panic were right next to me. The next moments I was in a bathroom stall. What just happened? I said, looking around, my tired mind trying to catch up to the current situation. It seems you teleported out of danger unconsciously. Welp, hope no one saw me, I said sarcastically. Getting up I opened the door and saw the bathroom was covered in sand. Most likely everyone was distracted by the sudden attack than the one kid in the corner of the room. Teleporting outside of the school I saw the school was surrounded by a cloud of sand. As I looked around the area I heard emergency services in the distance. So do you have a plan? You don't have a water or aquatic monster to fight the Sandman? Then find me one quickly, Tron. I equipped my classic armor and my namesake monster. I flew down and entered the school. Monster Greater Water Elemental. Title None. LV 1. Stats. STR 100. Dex 200. Int 75. Energy 1000. Skills. Hydrokinesis. I'm a waterbender. Passive. Can control and manipulate water. Water Bomb. 500E. Launch a sphere of boiling water that does AoE damage to all nearby enemies. Torrent. 250E. Fire a blast of water at an enemy. Water Form. Passive. Your physical body is water. You are immune to most physical attacks. Can absorb the water from other sources to replenish energy and grow in size. Cost 925,000 or 1 free monster. Current, 119,825,975. I purchase using my system points and immediately transform into greater water elemental. As I enter the school I find students and teachers pressed against the walls and lockers held in sand cocoons. Oh thank God a hero is here, a teacher yelled out. Who is it? One unlucky student said, their face against the wall. It's Night Fury, I saw him with Spider-Man on TV, another student said. I quickly applied water to each cocoon, turning the sand into mud. I made my way to the cafeteria to find the place covered in sand and everyone trapped in hardened sand cocoons. Peter, Night Fury Sandman, he took Harry, he said frantically, quickly applying water to everyone. I looked around using observe, finding no sign of Sandman himself or Harry Osborn. He created a small whirlwind and carried him away. Looking around for a bit and transforming into my best trackers, I couldn't find either sand, which made sense since one was made of sand and the other covered in said sand. You could track them using your Grim form. Its ability to sense emotions and innate ability to track humans would surpass your other monsters. Yeah, I don't think I want to become a literal soulless monster made by a dark god to kill and destroy humanity and their creations. While I am very tired and don't know how much I can keep my instincts suppressed, as I looked around, emergency services arrived, helping any injuries and stopping students and teachers to get statements. Eventually a group of 3 officers walked up to me, but the one in the middle had my attention. Name George Stacy. Title Captain of the NYPD. LV 55. Stats. STR 21. Dex 20. In 31. Energy none. George, Night Fury, if you wouldn't mind answering some of our questions. I just nodded my head, answering all the questions truthfully until a black limousine pulled up and out came Norman Osborn looking furious. Norman, who is in charge here and where is my son? He said in a cold voice, which made the policeman he addressed flinch and look back to George Stacy, who sighed and walked over to deal with Osborn. As continued to find nothing, I felt my vision go blurry for a second and my mind wander. What am I doing wasting my time looking for Harry Osborn, future goblin, when I could be at home with the little ones or in my bed asleep? I nodded my head. That did sound nice. Max, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. I snapped back to reality, looking around. Why do you ask? You stopped moving and started nodding up and down. It was kind of creepy. Okay, I need to go to bed. I was about to teleport away when I heard a shout. Looking back, I saw Norman yelling something. Then after a moment I figure out he was yelling at me. Norman, Will, what are you going to do to find my son? I demand an answer. George Stacy tried to silence him, but Norman acted like he wasn't even there. Or is the bugle right about all you masked vigilantes and you're all nothing but menaces getting in the way? George Stacy, Mr. Osborn, I'm going to have dash, he was about to say, but the commotion gained the attention of the crowd around the school to them, so Norman turned to address them. Norman, my son has been kidnapped and yet none of these so-called heroes were there to stop it, he said, and the crowd murmured amongst themselves, and now that one has arrived too late, they're just as useless as the police are in apprehending the criminal. Now I saw the glint of cameras and the news vans starting to arrive. Mission, missing million. Find Harry Osborn. Defeat and capture Sandman. Failure. -100 affiliation with all currently positive affiliated groups. Title gained, false hero. Accept. Or decline. Note if you decline. -50 affiliation with all currently positive affiliated groups. For a long moment, I did nothing as I felt my instincts fight to rush at Osborn and rip out his still beating heart and feed it to him. It's just words, don't let it get to you. Stop, let's just accept the mission and get out of here. Press accept, but the anger, rage, and fury of my monsters, no matter which one I select, it's still there, the anger building up ready to burst. Tron, get me out of her now. Where to dash? Nigerian Nairawikarian 1. The next second I was in a familiar location I recognized as Lumeria. The spot Tron picked was where the Fantastic Four jets crashed, and where I picked flowers. With Susan looking around, I saw deviants scavenging it. They saw me immediately and pointed weapons at me. Leave, run away. I Nigerian Naira Mongolian Tugharig. They surrounded me and yelled at me, but I couldn't hear them. I was too focused on controlling my anger, trying to keep it under control. Whack. One hit me with the butt end of their gun, and I looked towards it. Chapter 85, A Monstrous Realization. POV Max. I opened my eyes to find myself in a familiar void of darkness, well, as familiar as literal nothingness can be. Well, if it isn't my favorite reincarnate, how have you been? The familiar voice from the void reverberated around me, coming from all sides. I opened my mouth to answer. That was a rhetorical question. I know exactly what you've been up to, and let me just say you certainly didn't disappoint in entertaining me. Glad you got a good show, but can you tell me why I'm here? Did I die again? I asked, a little concerned. Not necessarily, more like your human mind is in the back seat getting a good break while your instincts have taken the wheel. Wait, like the Hulk, I need to wake up now. I tried to concentrate and I felt something like how you try to force your way out of sleep paralysis, but no matter how hard I tried, I was still in the void. Sorry to say, kid, but you are mentally too tired right now to fight for your place in the driver's seat, they said with some sympathy in their voice. Is there nothing I can do? Silence was my answer. Can you at least show me what I'm doing? Trust me when I say you don't want to know, and besides it could be worse. How? I wasn't in control of my body while my monsters did who knows what. Well, if you hadn't held out for as long as you did, you would be rampaging through New York City instead of the ruins of Lumeria killing deviants. Yeah, I guess I had to admit that was a positive. Besides, you're about to wake up any second now. Oh, and I almost forgot your adventures. Those scenarios, I liked those a lot, so I'm going to change them a little. Change them how? Why ruin the so dash? You may or may not have a friend or two on your little trips. What does that mean? Oh, don't worry, it won't be every time and no one boring, it's just a little something to spice things up on your journey. Pulse a few other things and remember, I'll be watching. I blink, no longer in the black void, and I'm now back to reality. Max, can you hear me? Are you back to normal now? Please be back to normal. I'm here, Tron, I'm back. I had never heard Tron so human, usually he's so monotone. Thank my creator, you're back to normal. You've been. I don't know if there's a word for it specifically, but acting strangely is close enough. Yeah well, I'm back now so tell me what dash. My voice caught in my throat as I turned around to see the ancient city of Lemuria, one of the first cities on Earth, was no more, no structure stood and most of the unique plant life was gone. Then a blue screen popped up in front of my face. Notification plus 99. I tried to swallow the lump that had formed in my throat and after what felt like forever opened my stats. Name Max Draco. Race high human, new. Title founding member of MARVE. LV1. Stats. STR 100 plus 30. Dex 110 plus 50. Int 50 plus 10. Energy 1000. Current points, 191. Skills. Transformation. The user can transform into a selected monster. Partial transmission, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Add selected monster attributes to your human form. Observation. Can see other beings' stats and information. Monsters roar, hear me roar. Effects changes on the selected monster. Perfect physique made in God's image. Passive. Dex stat plus 50. STR stat plus 30. Int stat plus 10. Light speed draw, new. Passive. Almost instantly you can draw any weapon and or tool from its holster or your inventory. Destiny draw, passive. I believe in the heart of my cards. When you draw your cards they always give you what you need. High human. A subspecies of humans that have not been seen on Earth since the time of Adam and Eve and their children. Said to be made in God's image, they are the pinnacle of mankind. Legends say that they can live for hundreds if not thousands of years. I stared at my stats and the description of my new spices. Multiple emotions hit me in waves, first confusion, then anger, fear, then finally after a moment I calmed myself down as now had to accept the fact was I was no longer human. The last shred of my previous life without powers and just the possibility to feeling normal was gone. Max, are you okay? I'll live, I said coldly. I knew it wasn't Tron's fault but I couldn't help but feel a little bit of me disappear at the revelations. Tron, what happens to all my system points? Getting no answer, I opened my transformation list and inventory to take stock of what has changed. My mouth drops. New transformation. Monster X. Xenomorph. Wither. Red Dragon. Blacklight Virus. Tyrannid Swarm Lord. Abyssal Lagiacrus. Zwa Shadow Fox. Evolved Monster. Blue Eyes Twin Burst Dragon. Mutant Void Enderman. Ultimate Ditto. Ultimate XLR8. Ultimate Heat Blast. Elder Val's Tracks. Bedrock Gargoyle. Dire Werewolf. New items. Egyptian Gods deck. Assassin armor and equipment. Heavy bolter plus 5 clips of ammo. Mandalorian armor and equipment. Power suit. Okay, I can work with this. I grind for what felt like the first time in a long time, but that feeling didn't last as I looked back to the devastation around me. Tron, how long was I out of it? Looking through the other notification I see that all my monster now have at least one title, even the new ones. 1 hour and 15 minutes. So it's still day out and the mission to find Harry is still here. I wonder what's been going on, and with a thought, I equip my new monster Mutant Void Enderman. Name Max Draco. Monster Mutant Void Enderman. Title Warrior of the End. LV-1. Stats. STR 225. Dex 175. Int 50. Energy 100,000. Skills. Teleportation. Traveling to any place you've been to or can see. Can teleport to the end, the overworld, and the Nether. Eye of Ender dash look at the void, it will look back. Able to track down all those that look into your eyes. Flames of the End. 1000. Unleash purple flames that burn until the target is dead or by your command. Summon Enderman. 2000. Summon LV-10 Enderman to command. Create End Crystal. 5000. Create a crystal connected to void, the void that will heal and empower you if nearby. If hit hard enough the crystal will explode. Voice of the Void. 20,000. Speak with the voice of the void and all those who hear will their end. Dash. To moral to all who hear your voice. I teleport back to New York on a building overlooking Midtown High. The police were still at the school, and as I looked down I felt a buzzing sensation reaching into my armor. I pulled out my phone. Jean Grey calling. Answer decline. 12 missed calls. Fucking shit, I completely forgot about Jean and others, and what my excuse would be. Getting into cover I took a breath and removed my mask quickly. I pressed accept. Jean, oh my god Max, are you okay? I've been trying to reach you. I heard the sound of movement in the background and wondered what was going on. You don't worry, I'm fine and sorry for not answering your call sooner. My phone got messed up in the attack and it took me a while to get a new one, I said, hoping that was a good excuse. Jean, thank God you had me. And the others worried. I sighed in relief. She was more worried about me than how I got away. By the way, any update on Harry? But the moment of silence that followed spoke volumes to how the search was going. Jean, nothing yet, but there were reports that Night Fury was at the scene and think he might have something, but that was more than an hour ago, and no sighting since. Here's hoping. Hey, I'll talk to you later. Got to take care of so things after I'm done. Maybe I can come by, I said, wondering how the hell I was supposed to find Harry. Jean, I would like that very much. Stay safe, she said before hanging up. I put my phone away and wonder how I would complete this mission, but after looking over my monster's side there was only one monster I had that could help, and after a moment I equipped it. Name Max Draco. Monster Grim King. Titles Heir of Salem, Black Prince. LV-25. Stats. STR 205. Dex 200. Int 115. Energy 100 million. Skills. Magic Manipulation. Passive. Can control, manipulate, and bend the arcane energy to do your bidding. Grim Manipulation. 10,000. Can create and manipulate Grim Pools of Destruction. 100,000. You can create spawning pools that will automatically create the creatures of Grim. Dark Aura. Passive. Your presence causes those around you to feel extreme fear and empowers Grim, giving ×2 to all stats. Soulless. Oh please, I have no soul. Dash. Passion Hunter. I can smell your fear. Passive. Can sense the emotions of humanoids. Predator of man. I hunt the hunters. Passive. Hunting down and fighting humans while destroying their creations is your nature. So you've finally chosen me, but consensuses make this the second time. The dark feminine voice said its voice like that to an angle, but I knew it belonged to a succubus. Next to me stood something that looked and sounded like Summer Rose from my brief encounter with her, but distorted with grim appendages. Image here. The girl was what was left of Salem's power after I sent her soul to the shadow realm and absorbed her essence, but without a soul, her essence became something to entice me to use this form's power like I want as I want. But it also forced evolved my grim warrior form to what it is now, which could be my strongest monster. I know. So how did you enjoy the show? I missed it, I said, looking at the girl who stood in front of me, one eye brilliant silver, the other red as fresh blood and a dark as the abyss. A smile spread on her face. It was fun, but I would have loved it if you were truly the one to ask for the destruction I caused. She walked up to me. She was at eye level with me in height, and her smile. Sorry to hear that. Why was I sorry? But I need to find an acquaintance, the girl pouted before turning to the city, which in the eyes of a creature of grim was a sea of emotions, positive and negative. Fine, but I'll be watching, she said. I blinked and she disappeared. Standing where she once stood, I closed my eyes and concentrated. I sensed the emotions of the city, but also the flow of magic. With a simple exertion of will, in an instant I found where Harry was, and it surprised me even in my soulless form. Then I sensed the two people about to show themselves. Spider-Man, Night Fury, I'm glad we found you. Have you had any luck in finding Mr. Osborn's son? He corrected. Black Cat pinched the bridge of her nose. I have, and you're not going to believe where he is. Both looked at me surprised, but that turned to shock and a little bit of delicious fear as black wings with bone spikes extended from my back care to join me. Chapter 86. Person of Interest. POV. Night Fury. Spider-Man, are you sure this is the right place? He said skeptically, but I had locked on to Harry's soul? Emotions. Question for later. Yes, I'm sure, I said. We looked over what looked like an abandoned hammer factory, but with my senses, I knew differently as I watched multiple humans walking around or sitting inside. Black Cat, well, the place does looks abandoned unless you count for the numerous and expensive security all around it, she said. That seemed like enough for Peter to jump in, but I put a hand on his shoulder. We need a plan, I said, and pointed at the sun. Well, wait until it's dark. Until then we watch and observe for entrances, I began, but I was interrupted by Black Cat. Black Cat, who died and made you king, she said, looking at me. I stared at her and held back a growl. And what's your master plan? Do you have to get Harry out without getting him or us killed? I asked sarcastically. She held up a phone. Black Cat, call for backup and want for professional help, she said, walking away from the edge of our vantage point, leaving me and Spider-Man to watch over the abandoned-looking building. Spider-Man, so how did you track down this place? I thought you couldn't track sand, he said, trying to make conversation. I can't. I have a monster. I don't use that often because of its nature instinct, but it has an interesting way of seeing things that allowed me to find him, I explained, and I could see Peters and Felicia, who was eavesdropping, become curious. Spider-Man, how does it feel when you become a monster? He asked. I looked at him and I saw the summer lookalike behind Spider-Man making a face before disappearing. I smiled under my mask, holding in a laugh. It's different every time, but if I had to explain it, imagine becoming a dog. You're still you, but you're now a dog with all the senses and abilities of that dog, I explained. Felicia finished her call and just listened. But while you're a dog, you also have to fight against all of your primal instincts as a dog, sniffing other dogs, marking territory, licking yourself, I listed off, and both flinched. Spider-Man, that sounds exhausting, he said, but I think he wanted to say something else as I saw the small amount of fear and disgust start to grow. Black Cat, backup should be here soon, she said, only for a black void to appear next to her, as a man wearing a large and heavy cloak appeared, eyes glowing white under his hood, and out of the folds of it came our backup. Tyrone Johnson aka Cloak, Tandy Bowen aka Dagger, aka Black Widow, aka Robin, Wally West aka Kid Flash. When she said professional help, I was not expecting an Avenger to show. Black Widow, situation report, she said simply, and Spider-Man explained how Sandman had kidnapped Harry Osborn and how I tracked him to this abandoned hammer building that wasn't abandoned. But I was still thinking about our backup. They sent an Avenger and 2 sidekicks of the Justice League. Kid Flash, so why not go in and grab him and get out, he said, zipping to appear leaning on Black Cat, who tried to shove him off only to miss as he zipped to look at the building. Because we don't know if Sandman is still around and we don't have a solid way of taking him down. I mean, I did, but at most I could hold off Sandman with water elemental. Kid Flash, whoa, you're the monster guy, right? Blackberry, Night Fury, or something. I wanted to kill him. It's Night Fury, and since when does Kid Flash work for S.H.E.I.L.D? I asked with a bit of annoyance in my voice, but Kid didn't seem to notice, and Kid Flash shook his head and pointed at Robin, who waved. Kid Flash, nah, I was just hanging with my friend when the call came in, so I volunteered to help. Robin whispered something which caused Dagger to giggle and Cloak to smirk. Black Widow, alright, enough chit-chat right now, we observe and plan. Once it's nightfall we make our move. I looked at Black Cat, who looked away from my gaze. POV. Harry Osborn. Today really isn't your day, Harry, I said to myself as I sat tied to a chair in what looked like an abandoned building with all the dust on all the old boxes and machines. I am truly sorry to involve you in all this nasty business, Mr. Osborn, but your father has many things to answer for. A voice said that sounded familiar but couldn't place it. What do you mean? What has he done? I knew my father was what most would call a cutthroat businessman, but I didn't know specifics. Oh, the list is far too long, but let's just say he has a long list of enemies who have come together to see justice be done, they said. And what does that have to do with me? I asked, trying to keep my emotions in check and my poker faces up. You are merely a means to an end. Do not worry, you shall return to your father. In fact, we're counting on it. A bright flash of light caused me to close my eyes, and if my hands weren't strapped down I would have covered them. Then I was in nothingness. POV. Night Fury. She's still watching you, Summers lookalike said as I continued to watch the abandoned building. It was just sundown and we were about to go in. Yeah, ever since she got her she's been watching me. If I wasn't in my grim form I would have had a harder time noticing. Black Widow had been watching my every movement and asking Spider-Man and Black Cat about me as subtly as possible. Kid Flash, yo Night Fury, do ya think we could get a rundown of what you might be capable of so we're more prepared? I looked at the speedster and knew this was just an excuse to see me transform. Glancing at the others I saw anticipation and curiosity, but I didn't want to lose sight of our target or give away more than I needed to. How about I tell you about the one I am right now? You were curious about how I tracked the Osborn, right? I asked and got a nod from Spider-Man. The monster species are called grim predators that hunt and destroy humanity and its creations. I saw and felt the fear rise in them. Kid zipped away from me next to Robin. Black Cat, how does turning into a monster that kills humans help find Harry? She asked, and before I answered, Black Widow did. Black Widow, what best to track down a human than to use something that hunts them? Well, call me impressed. I nodded to her. Then as I turned back to the building I saw one after the other people begin to disappear. I jumped up and switched to Ultimate XLR8. There, make a run for it, I yelled before accelerating forward. Everything slowed to a crawl as I ran except for one. Kid Flash, you have super speed too. Neat. So what's the situation? We were at the front of the building. I looked back to see the others having just made it to the ledge of the building we were on. I'm going to the lower levels to grab the Osborn. You go upstairs and grab anyone before they get away. He nodded and we split up. Racing down the stairs I found Harry unconscious, tied to a chair. Checking for traps I found none, and untied him, then carried him to the ground floor where the others had just arrived. Spider-Man, oh thank God. Harry, are you alright? He said, taking Harry from me. A moment later Kid Flash arrives. I look at him and he shakes his head. Black Widow was on her earpiece and looked at the both of us. I saw people disappearing and didn't want them getting away with the hostage, so I ran in and sent Kid upstairs to grab someone before they vanished, I explained. Kid Flash, yes, saw a guy jump into what looked like a swelling vortex before I could grab him. It closed, he said, causing Black Widow to think for a moment, but my train of thought was stopped by an alert. Warning, your territory has an intruder. Emergency mission. Get off my property. Drive away the Titan that is attempting to make your island its new residence. Your kids are in danger. Save them before it's too late. Failure. -1 or all of your kids will die. I gotta go, I said before teleporting and finding myself inside the Nighthawk Island. Tron, where are they? I asked as I speed through the base looking for them. They are outside. I have activated the island's defenses, but they are failing to push back this Titan. I ran outside to see multiple cannons, machine guns, missile launchers, and more firing at a giant turtle. I watched as missiles hit its side, but it didn't even attempt to dodge, it just tanked the damage. Monster Dragon Turtle. Title none. LV 55. Stats. STR 475. Dex 650. Int 42. Energy none. Skills none. Well, time to make some turtle soup. I rush forward and I feel my body transform fully into Zilla. I rushed forward and ram into the side of the turtle, sending it across the island, and roar. It roars back before diving into the ocean. Roar. Where the hell do you think you are going? I chase after the title into the water. A/N, sorry about the slow update, get sidetracked and now I'm working on some new stories. 1th, I hope you guys like when they're out. Chapter 87, The Battle at Liberty Island. POV Max. I swam after the turtle, quickly gaining on it and pinning it to the floor of the ocean. It tried to slip from my grasp, but I held my grip on it and smashed it into the terrain. The turtle managed to maneuver and smashed its club-like tail into my side, roared in pain, and unleashed my atomic fire into it, causing it to smash through multiple boulders, coming to a stop on the edge of a ravine. Getting up, it began to swim away, causing large boulders to fall into the ravine. I chased after it. As I did, I noticed a submarine a distance away, but I ignored it in favor of chasing my intruder. POV Randy Hernandez. Location, HEATHQ. I lay back in my chair watching TV as Mendel worked on his little NIGIL as he finished and activated the robot. NIGIL. Musical notes. Hello my baby, hello my honey, hello my ragtime gal, send me a kiss by wire baby, my heart's on fire. Musical notes. I held in my laughing as Doc made a face as his robot moved and danced around while quoting Looney Tunes. Man, did I wish I had a camera. He looked at me and I busted out laughing. Just then the door opened and Nick and Elsie came in. Elsie, do I even want to ask? She said. The phone rang and she went to pick it up. Mendel, it's not my fault that our computer expert is a child who keeps messing with our equipment, he said bitterly, and I simply shrugged. He made it way too easy and fun to mess with him. Hey, who doesn't like classic Looney Tunes? I asked. Nick shook his head, but we all turned as Elsie quickly put down the phone. Nick, Elsie, what is it? He asked. Elsie, Zilla and another Titan are fighting at the bottom of the Atlantic and they're heading for the east coast. Nothing else needed to be said as we ran OUN.I.G.I.L hot on our heels as we ran to the heat seeker. In 5 minutes we were out on the water, me and Mendel on the sonar looking, and Monique at the helm. Nick and Elsie were on the phone getting what information they could from the military and updating Monarch on our position. Nick, military sent out the warning to all nearby ships to dock or keep a generous distance away. Mendel, Randy, anything on sonar? He asked. Mendel, nothing so far, he said. Far too soon as 2 massive blips appeared on the sonar below us. Scratch that, we got 2 massive blips right under us, I said quickly. Then the heat seeker began to sway to one side as a column of green flames blasted out of the ocean. Nick, brace yourselves. Monique, get us out of here, he yelled. Monique, accroche-toi quelque chose, she said, and presses what I dubbed the boost button. The heat seeker blasted forward, getting out of the way. Mendel, why is Zilla attacking us? He asked. Nick, he's not, we just got caught in the crossfire. He came over to the radar and looked at a map, and New York is about to be as well, he said as this information sank in. I looked at the radar and I felt the color drain from me. And it looks like something else wants to join the party, I said, pointing to another massive blip on the sonar following behind the two. POV Rick Stanton. Location, Outpost 49 Scotland, Loch Ness. I stood over a console listening to the depths of the movement of the murky water of the loch and everything in it but what I was listening for her. Just as I got the recording I felt a frantic tapping on my shoulder. Looking up from my console I see Chen with an upset look motion for me to take off my headset. What is it? I'm war dash, I begin to say only to stop as I take off my headset and notice the chaos the room is in. Chen, we have a potential level 2 Alpha class scenario on our hands. Serizawa needs us in the command chamber, she said and didn't wait for a response as she left and I quickly followed. Alpha class 1 or more Titans attacking a major population center. I thought as we entered the room. I glanced around seeing and see Sam, Colonel Diane, Serizawa, and multiple faces on the big screens. On screen was Colonel Hicks, Director Fury, General Thunderbolt Ross, and Reed Richards. Hicks, sir, we just got a report from our subs that a third Titan is heading for New York, he said and I felt the tension in the room thicken, and as we approached Serizawa was past something and his face turned grim. Fury, can we confirm that? He asked with a tone that demanded more information. Serizawa, we can also confirm this information just came in from the HEA.T team. Have we begun an evacuation operation yet? He asked and I saw multiple stone face shift. Fury, we are he began but was interrupted by Sam who ran up and changed one of the screens to show the news. On the screen we watched from the view of a news helicopter was what I recognized as Liberty Island, and further off the coast were two dark shapes. Newswoman, as those of you who are watching, there are two shapes we believe to be Titans in the water heading for Liberty Island, she said, and from the view, we could see the shapes of civilians heading for safety or the ferry. Then we watched as the Titan breached the surface of the water to reveal a giant turtle making its way onto Liberty Island. It looked towards the fleeing people and growled before moving to the center of the island and started looking around. Ross, what the hell is that thing? He asked, but I didn't recognize it and looking around were looks of confusion, so it's probably a new Titan. Chen, looks like some species of snapping turtle, she said, and Serizawa nodded and I saw the general grim look before talking to someone off screen. Sam, what's it looking for? He asked no one in particular, but he didn't have to wait long for the answer as familiar dorsal spicks appeared in the water circling Liberty Island before going back underwater. Where'd it go? I asked. POVzilla. Going underwater and dug under Liberty Island, but before I came up I quickly shifted to Ultimate Ditto and created two clones. One wore my Night Fury armor, the second wore my Diamond armor. Both gave me a thumbs up. Okay, you and I will handle the turtle with whoever shows up and you go back to the island and look after the kids. I said. They nodded and they both teleported away as I fully transformed back into Zilla. Digging under the dragon turtle I blasted the underbelly with atomic fire, sending the turtle flying into the base of the Statue of Liberty. Oops, my bad, I thought. The turtle got up and charged at me, but I swung my like a whip, knocking the turtle to the side. It lay there still and I was about to demand it submit to me only to stop and turn to see another form burst out of the water. I got slammed into and thrown back into the ocean just as I had regained my bearings. The turtle got thrown into the water at me, but I was able to dodge and jump right back onto the island and I saw my new challenger. Monster Giganto. Title Ancient Atlantean Guardian. LV 99. Stats. STR 800. Dax 800. In 75. Energy none. Skills. None. What the fuck is that? I thought, but I couldn't remember who or what this thing was, but with a title like Ancient Atlantean Guardian it has something to do with the underwater city. I reared back and roared, blasting the whale with green flames. Giganto roared in fury, pushing through my flames and grabbing my mouth shut, then slamming my head into the ground. I look up, and just as it was about to bring its foot down on my head, a white beam hits it in its chest. Night Fury, Blue Eyes, lay waste to our enemy's white lighting, he said, and Blue Eyes follows its command, unleashing another blast of white energy into Giganto, sending it tumbling back. Taking the opportunity, one charged at smashing into it while it tried to regain its balance, making it fall on its back, only for it to unleash a torrent of water out of its blowhole, making it stand up straight. Not that I doubt you or anything, but you do have a plan to beat this thing, right? I could go all out, but then New York would be a wasteland, I thought as I was pushed back and then shoved into the base of the Statue of Liberty, but I'm not opposed to some suggestions. I thought, rolling to dodge a punch. You're an Alpha Titan with allies around the world, why not call them? Okay, that's a plan. I like this. Will be my first Alpha call. Dodging a tail swipe, I breathe in and let louse my loudest roar. Alpha call. What is your command? Come to my side and aid me against my enemy, I thought as I unleashed more green flames on Giganto. POV Rick Stanton. Whoa, we just got alerts from multiple other outposts, I said, and imminently felt the gazes of all the higher UPS on me. Chen, which ones? She asked, moving to look over my shoulder. Serizawa, he's called them incredible, he said, and I would have to disagree, more like terrifying. Hicks, I never was informed that these things could call for backup, he said with a certain tone to his voice. Ross, neither was I, he said, and I swear I heard a pencil snap at the information or lack thereof. Fury, Serizawa, Reed, what do you know? He asked, and Serizawa shook his head. Serizawa, it's only a theory, but with this new evidence. He trailed off deep in thought before looking up at the multiple screens and nodding at Reed, who nodded back. Reed, it's what we call the Alpha Theory. Chapter 88 Rising. POV third person. Location, Heat Seeker. Randy, how can you guys be more interested in the Titan that got code than the two ducking it out next to the Statue of Liberty? Randy asked, looking back at the rest of HEA.T gathered around Mental, who was piloting N.I.G.L his robot as it was swimming down to the new but now unconscious turtle Titan. Mendel, because this one will finally give mankind the answers it needs once the new tag is applied, he said, focusing on the screen in front of him. Randy, I thought tagging the Titans was impossible. The radiation alone destroys the tag before it can send any info back, he said, and Nick nodded his head. Nick, you're right, normal tags don't even last 5 minutes on a Titan, but these new tags are different. He brought out what looked like a dish with ash on it. Randy, how is Mendel's cooking help track Titans? It probably does the opposite. Mendel turned and gave Randy a look. Elsie chuckled and Monique rolled her eyes, but a hint of a smile. Mendel, they're nanobots that will give us all the information that we once injected inside, he said as N.I.G.L just injected the nanobots into the turtle. Randy turned back to observe the fight only to immediately stand up and look at Nick. Randy, you might want to call Monarch or Major Hicks because the armies just arrived, he said, and pointed to the Manhattan coast where rows of tanks, helicopters, soldiers, and artillery could be seen. Nick went to the phone, but then Krakum 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 krakum. Boom 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 boom. Whoosh whoosh asterisk whoosh whoosh. Shells from tanks and artillery missiles from helicopters and jets exploded off the two Titans from the coast of Manhattan. Ruoar. Zilla dove into the water escaping the bombardment, but the new whale Titan looked at the line of vehicles and flying machines and walked towards them even as the bombardment solely focused on it slowly made its way to the Manhattan coast. Randy, I hope you have them on speed daily because those soldiers are about to be monster munchies, he said. POV Night Fury, the clone. You fucking idiot. I yelled out as I watched the bombardment do jack shit against Giganto and cause the original to swim away and lose any momentum he had in the fight. But then again, what should I do? Maybe switch decks the god cards perhaps, but I knew the original wouldn't use them here, save them for just in case the ancient one tries something again. Sigh, fine, I'll do it myself. Blue Eyes Twin Burst Dragon. I flew down in front of what these humans call an army and cracked the ground on impact. Rando soldier, hey, this area is off limits to civilians. I ignore whatever it was saying and unfurl my glorious and beautiful wings and tail and I roar into the sky, letting the heavens and earth know of my rage. Skill. Rage of Blue Eyes. Summon up to 3 blue-eye white dragons. From the night sky, 3 silver dotes flew down like shooting stars and stopped to hover above me, looking up 3 majestic dragons of destruction. All 3 bowed their heads, and I nodded and gestured for them to rise. Join me in my attack against my enemies, I mentally commanded them and each reared back and roared. Blue Eyes ×3, at your command, my master, each said. I turned and faced Giganto, who had made it more than half away to Manhattan. I looked inside myself and gathered my energy. Arcs of blue and white lightning coated my form as I gathered it, and just as the energy built up to its max I released it in a flash of white and blue, a beam of destruction. Skill. Twin burst of white lightning. ×6 damage to evil creature. If a creature does not die from this attack, it will be vulnerable to all light-based attacks for 1 minute. Each one of my blue eyes joined my attack with their own, unleashing white lightning, causing a gigantic explosion of white energy. In the aftermath, the water was filling back in the now evaporated water as steam filled the air, blocking everyone's view of Giganto. Man, that looked like some DBZ shit right there, I thought, but then Giganto should be walking out of the steam right about. The whale walked out of the steam hurt but still upright. Just as I was about to command another attack, each dragon charged forward with claw, teeth, and tail. I was about to join them when the wind started to pick up, and then multiple things happened in quick succession. The original charged out of the water, pushing Giganto back further away from Manhattan. Then a familiar red blast of energy helped push Giganto back, and looking up, the X-Jet hovered above the side ramp open as the X-Men jumped onto the field. POV Zilla, the original. Oh great, the X-Men are here. Wait, where are the Avengers and the Justice League? I thought, only for it to be dismissed as I tried to burn Giganto. Scree. From the night sky, a cry was heard, and came Quetzalcoatl diving down, blasting Giganto with a ball of swirling air and pushing it back. Ruwayar. Running out between the skyscrapers of New York, charging forward came Rhedosaurus, jumping over the military and bit down hard on Giganto and began to claw at its thick skin. Curry. King Bat swooped down, blasting a sonic blast into Giganto, housing it to wail in pain. Using that, I charged and bit down on its arm and with a pull ripped it off and dropped it into the water. It wailed in pain as the attacks from the Blue Eyes, humans, mutants, and Titans continued to bombard the whale until finally Giganto stopped moving, and then multiple screens appeared in my vision. Emergency mission completed. Get off my property. Drive away the Titan that is attempting to make your island its new residence. Your kids are in danger. Save them before it's too late. Reward. 5x upgrade crystal. Crystals that can randomly upgrade items and give random effects. Hidden event activated. Rise of Atlantis. A guardian of Atlantis has been killed by the forces of the surface world. The hidden kingdoms of the oceans will react and take action. Zilla level up ×88. Max level reached, evolution available. Blue Eyes Twin Burst Dragon LV up ×75. Max level reached, evolution available. Well shit, I thought as I dismissed the screens and look at the body of Giganto as it floats in the water. Then I roared a new command to my Titans. Ruoar. Go back to your territories. They all bow slightly before leaving. I watch as Rhedosaurus runs through Manhattan. There must be a hollow earth entrance closure to New York, then I thought, but then I noticed Quetzalcoatl is still here. Grrrrrrrr. What is it? Scree. I would ask my alpha to awaken my mate Rodin. Fiery reunion. Awaken Rodin, the fire demon for Quetzalcoatl. Accept/decline. Is there a reason I shouldn't? After a bit of thinking, I couldn't think of a good reason why I shouldn't. Rodin is pretty chill unless someone, humans, does something stupid like fire missiles at him, so I accepted the mission. Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr away fast to Lumeria to lose any chance of tracking and teleport home. POV Night Fury, the clone. I listened as the original ordered the other titans home and watched as all the humans looked utterly enraptured by it like it was a once-in-a-lifetime thing to see. Nightcrawler, unglaublich, I didn't know they could talk to each other, he said with wonder and curiosity. Glancing over, I saw just Kitty taking pictures and Spike recording a video. Cyclops, can you understand them? I heard Scott whisper to Jean and she closed her eyes but shook her head. Marvel girl, I can't, their minds are too strong, she said, but then she looked at me. Nirefurry, can you understand them? I gave nodded but said nothing. Kitty, so what are they saying? Before I could respond, Radosaurus jumped over and ran past into the city while King Bat flew off. I felt multiple eyes on me. Zilla simply dismissed the other titans and Quetzalcoatl has made a request, I said. I then mentally commanded the 3 blue-eyes dragons to leave and they flew into the sky out of sight. Marvel girl, what did it ask? I looked at her and I shrugged. If Zilla would wake up her mate, and he said yes, I said before taking off to Nighthawk Island. Hours later. POV third person. Location, Atlantic Ocean. Underwater in an ancient city in a domed tower, a group of Atlanteans of many different looks stood, yelling and arguing while a man leaned on his throne with a silver trident laid across his lap. This is an outrage, a man with a fish head said, shaking his fist. A travesty, and you want to do nothing. He yelled at a man whose skin was blue and most of his body was covered in coral. I simply suggest we wait and investigate before he began, but he was interrupted by another woman with yellow skin and pink hair standing next to the man on the throne. And what is there to investigate? The surface world has set their beasts on one of our guardians. A projection appeared in the middle of the domed chamber showing the battle and death of the guardian, and you would advise your king to wait and see, she said. The chamber was silent. Then the king stood and took his trident in hand before bringing it down. All the assembled advisors and nobles kneeled. The woman stood next to the king. I have heard your advice and here is my answer. Gather my deep sea legions. We shall hide in the ocean depths no longer, he said. Chapter 89 Visions and the third scenario. POV Night Fury. Location, Nighthawk Island. Okay, so I'm doing this first. I sat in front of the Jedi Greatsword right where I left it in the training room. The vision, if there is one, could provide valuable information rather than a dark future where you conquer the world and go to war with Asgard. Yeah, about that light side, visions aren't that great either, but since we're in this universe I hope it's not so vague, I said, reaching out before stopping myself. What is it? Sorry, I'm just a little worried. Is all anything to do with fate, time travel, and especially predicting the future can and usually does go wrong, I said before grabbing the hilt. I was no longer in the training room. I was now in the middle of what looked like Tokyo Square, and all around were bodies dead. The streets were covered in blood. The city was destroyed. SSSSSHHHHHHHHH. Turning around I saw the silhouette of King Cobra rising from the smoke in the distance. Next I was now in front of the Eiffel Tower, but it was twisted and bent. Looking around, cars, light posts, and anything metal flouted up were in the sky. A man flouted with glowing eyes. The next thing I saw, I was on top of a building overlooking the ocean when a ship crashed into the water, and out of it came a beautiful girl I had ever seen, and my instinct went stir crazy looking at her. Then she looked up into the sky. I looked to see a red vortex appear with demons, soldiers, and all kinds of war machines came pouring out of it, and behind them glowing red eyes. Then I was back. I'm the training room. Well, I guess that was some good information, and it wasn't that vague. Well, not to me at least, I said, trying to ignore the shaking of my body. So what did you learn? Well, not sure about the specifics, but if it's in chronological order, then first King Cobra will awaken and attack Tokyo, then Magneto will attack Paris for some reason, then after that Supergirl will arrive on Earth, and finally we end with a first invasion of Earth by Darkseid, I said as if I was telling someone local news. That seems like a lot, so what's the plan? Right now it's to get stronger and evolving, I said, putting away the Jedi Greatsword in my inventory. I opened my system and selected my monsters. Zilla Jr. Burning. V. Zilla Jr. Deep Dark. Zilla Jr. Red Death. Zilla Jr. Atomic Fury. Oh my god, they look so cool, I said, looking each over. And out of your price range until you finish another scenario or get a big mission. Fuck, I don't even have enough to evolve Blue Eyes Twin Burst, I said, holding my head in my hands. Even with the credits gained from the emergency mission wasn't enough. Blue Eyes Twin Burst Dragon. V. Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Blue Eyes Abyss Dragon. Deep Eyes White Dragon. Blue Eyes Jet Dragon. Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon. So I guess I better get to it then, I said, going over my usual routine before going to sleep, checking the kids and checking the island. Then I laid down and closed my eyes. It's good to see you again, system holder. You've been gone for quite some time. Looking at the purple screen in front of my eyes, I looked around at my surroundings and found myself sitting inside a conference room with the SCP Foundation logo on it. What do you have for me this time? I said, leaning back in my chair. Good news, this time you get to pick your poison, and just so you know, whatever souvenirs you grab you can keep. House of One Less Dragon. Hunt and kill any Targaryen dragon. Reward will vary on which dragon and which methods are used. Hunt in the dark and strike the light. Hunt and kill any Jedi. Reward will vary on which Jedi and what methods are used. To kill a son. Hunt and kill one of the Primarches. Reward will vary on which Primarch and what methods are used. Okay, well, only 2 of these are possible, I said, but I felt my instincts draw me to accept to kill a son, but I knew that was almost impossible to do depending on when I am. But think about the loot you could take from 40k, and you know the reward will be massive if you do it, a little voice in my head said, but I knew it wasn't worth the danger of just being in the 40k universe. But killing a Jedi was easier, but honestly far too easy for me. Don't get me wrong, if it was back during the Old Republic I would be a little worried, but New Republic or even during the Empire or Clone Wars, sure, if I wanted to I could make it very difficult for myself and get a bigger reward, but still. But killing a dragon, on the other hand, sounded fun to me, and I already had a dragon in mind. The cannibal was by far the biggest dragon I could kill without messing up the canon of the universe. Plus all the stuff I can steal. I could grab a Valyrian steel sword or armor from Valyria, and some dragon eggs while I'm on Dragonstone. So after a few more minutes of pondering, I selected House of One Less Dragon, and one moment I was in my SCP Foundation, the next I was cold, really cold, so cold I got an alert. Warning, you are taking cold damage from the environment Yautja. Fuck me, I switched to my Yautja form and transformed fully and equipped my equipment. Image. Suddenly no longer feeling the cold as much, I looked around, and with my helmet's multiple features I was definitely beyond the wall. You might wonder how my helmet could confirm that it did so, because it has a zoom function. The wall is 700 feet tall, or about 50 stories tall, of ice stretching 100 leagues across, touching both the Shivering Sea and the Sunset Sea, one of the wonders of man on Planetos. As I stood and let my hair blow in the ice-cold breeze, I heard a roar on the wind and I felt pure adrenaline and excitement. Click, 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 click. I need to calm down. Who knows what I could run into out here, I thought, but that did the exact opposite as I felt excited at the idea of all the dangers and challenges I could face. Mission. Blood Trail. Hunt a creature and mark yourself with its blood. Reward. New title depending on kills and marked kill. Specialized equipment based on marked kill. Decline/failure. Title gained, unblooded. Title gained, bad blood. Accept/decline. For a long moment, I let the wind blow. I felt it on my skin and waited. Then I heard a roar once again and I let myself go. Snicked. Time to hunt. POV third person. Through the snowstorm, a massive polar bear walked through the snow. Scars covered parts of its body and one of its eyes looked damaged, but fresh blood from wildlings covered its maw, having ambushed them as they were hunting it. Then it stopped and sniffed the cold air and growled. It looked left and right but saw nothing but the white snow on the wind. Snap! In an instant, it rushed towards the sound, ready to attack a would-be hunter or unlucky prey, only to stop and stare as it entered a clearing and to see its prey standing there waiting. Roar! The bear stood on its hind legs and roared, but its prey did nothing but take a stance as the polar bear charged at them. Just as the bear reached its prey, the creature dodged out of the way and struck the bear with a devastating punch to the head. Pow! Crack! Thud! The bear slumped to the ground. The creature walked to the bear's head and nodded to it before cutting off its head with extended claws from its wrist and moving on. A/N. Sorry, the chapter is a little short, but do suggest what our boy should hunt and items he should grab and places he should visit while he's on Planetos. Chapter 90, A Hunter's Code. POV Night Fury. One day later. I stood on top of the wall enjoying the view of the morning sun just coming up. The light made the usually grey-white wall of ice now look pink in color. I've enjoyed my time beyond the wall, but now it's time to continue my hunt in Westeros proper. The question now is where to go now. I could go straight to Dragonstone and then to Old Valyria, but a part of me wanted to explore this world in no way a human can, but I knew time was a little funky and I had already spent far too much time beyond the wall as a predator hunting to my heart's content. Transforming into Elder Val's tracks, I blasted off so fast that I only saw Winterfell for an instant before going higher into the sky, and everything below me was dots, my white scales making it easy to conceal myself amongst the clouds. From above it was honestly easy to find what you were looking for, as every castle was different, but just from my vantage point I could see the Eyrie, Harrenhal, Casterly Rock, and far under me was the Twins. Each castle was so big it was impossible to miss it. As I flew past the Eyrie I saw the silhouette of the Red Keep and made my way east over the narrow sea. Keeping the Red Keep to my right I saw a small dot out in the water and I knew it was Driftmark when I stopped in midair, coming to a halt as I remembered something. How Celtigar, the forgotten blood of Old Valyria, had a castle filled to the brim with treasures like a horn that could summon krakens and a Valyrian steel axe. Now with this in mind I saw Claw Isle and transformed into Mutant Void Enderman, and for a brief moment gravity tried to pull me down to earth. The next moment I was on the sandy beach and not too far away was a large seaside castle flying the banners of red crabs on a white background. Using Indominus Rex I easily made my way into the castle. Walking past the guards and climbing the walls was nothing, but finding the supposed treasures was becoming a hassle, having to follow servants into rooms or wait for no one to be around and open them myself. Eventually, I found what looked like a study. Opening the door I found what was the medieval equivalent of a man cave. Bird cages hung from the ceiling, huge cabinets filled with cloths, blankets, and silk, and a wall of books that reached the ceiling but still had a pile of them on the floor, making a small tower with many other trinkets and chests of different sizes all over. And it looks like no one is in right now, I said, closing the door and going over any items with observation and putting anything interesting in my inventory. Items. Name, Crab's Pincer. Info, a axe of Valyrian steel, lighter than any metal and with magical properties, never needs sharpening. Crab's Pincer is the ancestral weapon of House Celtigar. Name, Horn of Krakens. Inert. Info, a horn said to have the ability to summon and control krakens. These items and more went into my inventory, and then I left, taking a few chests filled with coins and gemstones, and made my way to Dragonstone. On the way, I thought about how I wanted to kill the dragon in a way to get a bigger reward. Most of my monsters were either too strong or too weak or unequipped to kill a dragon like the cannibal, who was supposed to be as big if not bigger than the Viagar, the oldest and most powerful of all the dragons still alive, and if rumors are to be believed is as big as Balerion the Black Dread. So all my Titan and Mecha forms were off the table, and so were my dragons and monsters immune to fire, but that left monsters that could be swallowed whole by the beast or couldn't do damage to it. So after so thought I just stuck with my Yautja form with all my equipment available and decided if things got dangerous I would use my dual disc and my updated Lightsworn deck. After a few minutes, I arrived at Dragonstone and teleported to the top of the Dragon Mount, the large dormant volcano that took up most of the small island's interior. I clocked myself and started to climb down. Soon my mask warned me of high concentrations of methane, carbon dioxide, and other toxic particles in the air, and with the increase in temperature, I wondered how the Targaryens were even able to get to a dragon to even attempt to tame one. After a while, I found a large fissure, and looking down I saw the sleeping form of a dragon far too small to be the cannibal and the wrong color to be sheepstealer, so that left Grey Ghost, and using observation the system confirmed it. Name none. Monster young dragon. Title Grey Ghost. LV 33. Stats. STR 100. Dex 120. Int 26. Energy none. Skills. Fire breath. Fire a hot stream of flames. It's so weak, unworthy of the hunt, I thought, almost growling seeing the dragon, but now I knew what I should look out for when looking for a dragon's den. Knowing the Grey Ghost was a shy beast and most likely made its home far from any others, I made my way looking for other holes in the earth or high level of volcanic gas and heat. I might go rock climbing when I get back. I wonder if I should bring the kids along, I said, climbing down to the bottom of what was a large crack in the side of the mountain. Once down my instincts went into high alert and I felt eyes on me. Looking into the darkness of the large cave I saw movement. Name none. Monster adult dragon. Title the Cannibal. LV 56. Stats. STR 280. Dex 255. Int 40. Energy none. Skills. Fire breath. Fire a hot stream of flames. From the dark emerald green eyes shone in the darkness, and for a heart-stopping moment, even though I knew I was still clocked, I felt the dragon look at me. Its eyes bore into me, but then its eyes closed. This is a worthy hunt, I thought, and I felt my fear turn into pure anticipation as I thought of a plan only for my instincts to scream at me, and looking up I saw fire. Roar. Barely dodging to the side in time as the fire burned the ground to molten rock. Before I reorient myself I had to dodge another blast of fire. Looking up I saw that in the light I could now accurately measure the cannibal has black scales that looked like obsidian with an ash-gray underbelly, and my helmet showed me he was 155 feet long. He pretended to go back to sleep to catch me off guard. I thought, pulling out trident of the drowned sea and throwing it, aiming for the neck. The trident pierced the hide but didn't go too deep into the body. A moment later a lightning bolt came down with a crack of thunder from the sky and arched to where the trident was embedded. Roar! Cannibal roared in pain, but looking at the damage I was surprised the bolt of lightning only left a scorch mark where the trident was embedded. Outstretching my hand I summoned it back and I watched as it pulled a chunk of flesh out with it. Pulling out Notch's longbow, and I noticed how his helped me direct my aim, and I couldn't help but growl with satisfaction as I loose a flaming arrow into Cannibal's hide, but the arrows didn't even get his attention. Alright, how about oh shit. I threw myself backward, avoiding the sudden snake-like strike from the massive dragon. Getting back on my feet I struck out with my extended classes and slashed down. Screet roar. As it reared back I aimed my shoulder plasma caster and fired 4 blasts into it. This time the attacks left wounds that bleed, and in response, Cannibal bathed the area in flames, leaving no place to dodge. I felt my skin burn and scales start to peel off and I roared in pain. I threw myself up and clung to the roof of the cave, only barely escaping the onslaught of flames until they stopped and I fell to the ground. Looking forward and saw another torrent of flames about to be unleashed, and I was about to equip my dual disc until an idea came to mind. I collapsed to the floor, smoke and heat still radiating off my body, and I watched as the dragon drew closer. I felt it sniff me. I waited until I felt the heat of its open mouth and I sprung up and struck forward with my claws, expanding them to full length into its open mouth, and the 2 claws poked out through its skull. But in an instant, before its death, Cannibal bit down on my body and I roared as its knife-like fangs dug into my body. Using what strength I had I pushed the dragon's mouth apart and pulled my arm out of its head and fell to the ground bleeding, covered in its blood. Mission: Blood Trail completed. Hunt a creature and mark yourself with its blood. Reward: Title: Dragon Slayer. Armor: Heavy Armor. Secret Mission: The Code of Honor completed. In your hunt, you have followed the Outgia Code of Honor. Reward: Personal Ship. Vibroaxe. I tried to spring up in excitement only to fall back down in pain. Buying a health potion and regeneration potion, I sat up and looked at the body of my kill, and after a moment, seeing the new axe in my inventory, I got to work removing the dragon parts. Items: Dragon Skull, X55 Dragon Bones, X100 Slabs of Dragon Meat, X75 Dragon Hide, X4 Dragon Eggs. After an hour of gathering body parts, I was exhausted mentally and physically from the battle and harvesting body parts that the idea of flying across the ocean just to maybe find some magic trinkets didn't appeal to me. Scenario number 3. House of One Less Dragon completed. Hunt and kill any Targaryen dragon. Rewards will vary on which dragon and which methods are used. Would you like to end the scenario? Yes/no. I pressed yes and everything went black. When my vision returned, I looked up to see Artnix, Jason, Tommy, Agumen, and Gabuman all standing on the head of the couch I was sleeping on. Oh no, Artnix, all right now, Artnix said, and my eyes almost popped out of my skull as I felt 5 small sets of feet land on my chest and stomach. AHH son of dash. Language. Biscuits, I said as I looked to see the smiling faces of Artnix, Jason, Tommy, Agumen, and Gabuman now sitting on top of me. How was your adventure, sir? It was fun, but it's good to be home, I thought as I lay there. Artnix turned on the TV, and on the screen was the news of an army of unknown soldiers coming out of the ocean and appearing on the coast of the United States. Chapter 91: Rise of Atlantis. POV third person. Off the coast of Washington, New York, and many other major cities on the east coast of the United States were armies with advanced technology literally standing on the beaches. Then while the world was panicking, the news broadcasts were suddenly hijacked to show a man wearing an ornate suit of armor that looked like fish scales, wearing a crown on his head and a silver trident in his hand. Namor, my name is Namor, king of Atlantis. For too long you surface dwellers have been allowed to sully the waters that I rightfully rule without consequence. That now comes to an end today. He stood up off his throne and took his trident in hand. Then a woman with yellow skin and pink hair swam next to the man. But His Majesty is a just king and knows that change for surface kingdoms takes much time, which he is willing to give, she said. Then Namor slammed his trident into the ground, causing the water around him to ripple and then become still. Namor, the surface world has 1 month to recognize the kingdom of Atlantis and all water from the Atlantic and Mediterranean as sovereign territory, he said, and you could hear a pin drop from the implications. If by then our demands have not been accepted, there will be consequences, the woman said. Then the broadcast stopped, and in a few minutes all Atlantean troops disappeared back into the water, and for not the first time the world as humanity has known it has changed forever. POV Steve Rogers aka Captain America. As the video finished, everyone around the table was silent, as everyone who had gathered together today is here to discuss what we could or should do about this new threat. Diana, well then our path is clear, we prepare for war, the Amazon said, and for the first time in a long time I felt the weight of the shield hanging on my back. Superman, now hold on just a minute, we should at least attempt diplomacy, the Man of Steel asked, and I nodded in agreement. Shazam, and let's not forget this Namor guy has an army and there's only 10 of us with Green Lanterns in space. Thor went back home and Hulk has run off, he said, pointing out our lack of numbers. Natasha, that's exactly why S.AGI.L.D has recruited and trained a new team designated champions and also other persons of interest, she said, and a screen tapered in front of everyone showing the information of the champions and other capped crusaders. Flash, okay, so we have a few extra hands to help, but what do we know about Atlantis besides myths and stories, he asked, and Batman stood sliding files to everyone. Batman, myths and stories are all we have, he said, going through the thin files was theory and very few facts or numbers. Clint, Diana, you must know something more about Atlantis besides a Greek philosopher, he asked, and Diana cupped her chin, finishing the file before looking up. Diana, Atlantis is a city blessed by the god of the sea Poseidon and ruled by his descendants. The city and its people were said to have been sunk into the ocean by Zeus after the city attempted to conquer all of the Mediterranean and beyond, but it is said that the people didn't fall with their city but were transformed, able to survive under the waves, she explained. Iron Man, so we're fighting an army of water-based Wonder Woman, great, so does anyone have any ideas on how to beat that, he asked, and I stood and I felt all eyes on me. We do what Diana suggested, we prepare but not just ourselves, I said walking around the table. Clint, and what does that mean? He asked and I pointed to the list of young and new heroes. We're going on a recruitment drive, Natasha. Clint, you're going to show me these champions of yours. Everyone else starts recruiting and try not to scare our recruits away, I said. POV Max Draco aka Night Fury. I sat in the living room of the X-Men watching some movies with Jean Grey under my arm with Kitty, Kurt, Evan, Rogue, and Scott, who stood in the kitchen making a sandwich, but it was taking a while to finish. Kurt, I still can't believe Atlantis is real. Do you think mermaids are real? He said, and I couldn't honestly remember if Atlantis had mermaids. Scott, I think you forgot about how they hate us and are going to invade, he said, buying out Kurt, who I list chuckled at as he got a pat on the back from Evan. They're just mad about their giant monster. Once things calm down, I'm sure you can hang out with some mermaids, I said, making Kurt look up at me with hopeful eyes. Kurt, really, you think so? He said, and I nodded. Sure, if you can breathe underwater, I said, getting a laugh from everyone except Scott, who from what I could tell was trying to glare a hole through my head as Jean laid her head on my shoulder. Jean, I just hope things don't escalate, she said, and I nodded, pulling her close, but Kitty scoffed. Kitty, I think you're all forgetting the Avengers and the Justice League on our side. What's a bunch of Greek fish people going to do when advanced aliens couldn't beat them? She pointed out and got a nod from Rogue. Rogue, plus the Fantastic Four and all the other heroes out there like Night Fury and Spider-Man, she said, and I hid the grin on my face and decided to mess with them. There's also that team that helped stop the Juggernaut, I said, seeing their not so subtle reaction. I continued, they also helped evaluate and save lives in Chicago, so bad they never gave a name to themselves, I said. Scott, and helped out during the giant monster fights at the Statue of Liberty, he said, and I vaguely remember a red beam of energy hitting Giganto, but I just nodded my head anyway. Kitty, so got any plans besides hanging out with us while schools are closed for the foreseeable future? She asked, and I let out a groan, much to everyone's surprise except for Jean, who giggled at my reaction. Jean, it's not that big of a deal, it's just a business trip, she said, and I merely nodded, but I couldn't help but feel a little cheated out of spending more time with Jean and the X-Men. Scott, what kind of business trip? He said, a little too chipper, but no one else seemed to notice. I'll be going to San Francisco to attend a fancy party being held by Stana International in a few days, I said, crossing my arms. Evan, Stana as in Ironmonger, the guy who tore up half of downtown LA, that Stana? He asked, and I nodded my head, making Kurt raise his hand. Kurt, isn't Stana still in prison? How is he running a business, let alone putting together a party? He asked, and I simply shrugged, having looked into the matter after asking that question myself. Stana bought a good portion of Stark Industries stock after Tony stopped making weapons and used what he had, and with support from the government and other parties split the company and created Stana International, I explained. Kitty, but what about him going crazy and destroying a part of a city? She asked, and I shrugged. Apparently he took some of Stark's lawyers too. He runs the company behind bars, but rumor has it that his daughter is cutting him out so she can take control, I said, and everyone gave me blank looks. Scott, Obadiah Stana the Ironmonger has a daughter, he asked, and I was surprised as well. From my knowledge, the MCU Stana was killed and never mentioned again after the first Iron Man, but in this universe, he barely survived and is behind bars running his own company. Plus the fact he never had a daughter in the MCU. To my knowledge, the only time Stana has a kid is in Iron Man Armored Adventures. Whitney Stana was a potential love interest for the teenager Tony Stark and a super spy/thief, and that honestly all I remember about her. Yep, and I have to go and make nice with her and a bunch of other spoiled rich kids, I said, sinking deeper into the couch. Kitty, why not take Jean with you and turn it into a little getaway? She asked. I sank deeper into the couch and I felt Jean patting my head. Jean, that's what he wanted to do, but his board of directors had other ideas, she said with a hint of disappointment, but we had already discussed this yesterday. After a few more hours of hanging out, I left to begin packing back to my apartment. I found 3 other me's waiting for me. Night Fury, it's about time you got here. I was about to go back on patrol, said my clone, who was suited up in my Night Fury armor, said as he sat on the couch. Sorry, just wanted to stick around a while longer to mess with Scott. I got a slow clapping from one, and the other 3 chuckled to themselves. Predator, congratulations, we stole his crush. Now can we get on with this? He said, annoyed, and the other 3 raised an eyebrow at him. Lagiacros, what's got you in such a bad mood? Did you miss your chance to hunt some strays? He asked, only for my predator form to fully transform and equip his new armor and weapon. Snicked, click asterisk click click. Predator, I'll make your skull into my cup holder if you don't hold your tongue, he said. Lagiacros partially transformed, his body now covered in black scales with blue glowing spikes. Growling, I said, making them all stop and look at me. What did you learn? I said, sitting in a chair and looking at all 4 of my clones, each glancing at each other before the predator steps forward. Predator, my mission to see what S.HEI.L.D has planned came up short. I can confirm that Hydra has infiltrated them, but I'm unsure how deep the infiltration is, he said, and I nodded and looked to my Lagiacros. Lagiacros, Atlantis has a host of military units set up across the East Coast hidden by magic, but that's not all. Namor has allied with Atuma and has unites hidden off the coast of most of Western Europe, he said, and I felt a headache coming on. Are any near Nighthawk Island? I asked, and Lagiacros quickly shook his head. Good, I want you guarding it until I return. Lagiacros bowed, then I looked to Night Fury. Night Fury, nothing happened on patrol. Stopped a robbery with Peter near Central Park. Oh, and I heard some rumor about some man dressed in red in Hell's Kitchen though, and I nodded, a smile on my face. Honesty about time, maybe I should form the Defenders, I thought, before all of my clones combined back into me and their memories combined with mine. The flood of information staggered me and I felt liquid come down my nose. Note to self, when combining clones, only do one at a time, I thought, sitting back in my chair waiting for the memories to find their place in my head. Maybe I should fly this off, it's been a while since I've just glided through the city myself, I said, waking a bit before teleporting into an empty alleyway. I decided to use my red dragon form, letting the red wings and whip-like unfurl from my back. I took off into the sky. As I flew through the city enjoying the sensation of the flight, I almost missed the jet that was coming towards me, and I was about to test my dragon's breath on it if I didn't see the A on the side of it. Carlson, Night Fury, you're not busy, are you? The familiar voice of Agent Carlson asked, and I suddenly felt the headache returning. Chapter 92, Blood of a Monster. POV Night Fury. I followed the Quinjet much to my reluctance, as being a red dragon means taking commands or requests from humans is really annoying and feels like a waste of my time. Especially seeing as I've been following this stupid jet for an hour now and all I've seen is woodland, hills, and more forest, I thought, but a blue screen appearing in front of me immediately improved my mood. Scenario number 3, reward calculation completed. You have received 24 rewards. Monsters: Kirin, Phoenix, Thunderbird, Nemean Lion, Dryad, White Walker, Kraken. Items: Rumble Rumble Fruit, Dark Magician Deck, Valerian Steel Armor, Blackfire and Dark Sister, Super Shotgun, Crucible, 3+ upgrade crystals, 1 free mech transformation. Skills: Blood of Monsters, Spirit of Machines, Monster Slayer, Monster Tamer, King's Aura, Sadits, 1,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000. Yippee! I yelled, twirling in the sky as I followed the Quinjet, looking over my new stuff and more than enough points to upgrade Zilla. Carlson, Night Fury, we are now approaching our destination, he said through the earpiece, interrupting my celebration. Looking down, I didn't see anything. Then we passed a barrier and the forest changed from a woodland to a gigantic military base. When the hell did S.HEI.L.D get this? I thought the place was gigantic, having a giant ear in the middle that fired a beam into the sky that probably keeps the barrier up, I thought, following the Quinjet. As the Quinjet landed, I watched as others took off and became camouflaged as it left. Personnel walked around doing their own business. When I spotted the agents of S.HEI.L.D standing and waiting, I waved and walked towards them. It's been a while and I see you guys have been busy, I greeted them, shaking hands with each of them using observation. They've all gotten stronger by 4 to 8 levels. Melinda, so have you the founder of Monarch moving up in the world? She said, looking me over, and I shrugged. It wasn't a secret. Well, as far as I knew, didn't know what the public was told about Monarch's founding or history. Carlson, alright, you all can chit-chat as you walk. We got a meeting to get to. Melinda and Fitz, Sky, Grant, and Simmons show our guests to the arena, he said before walking off with Melinda. Simmons, if you would follow us, she gestured, and I nodded, following along, looking at the large S.HEI.L.D base. Sky, so what do you think? She asked, a grin on her face, and I shrugged. It's impressive, I'll give you that, I said, passing as we passed by rooms with engineers working in giant workshops, and some worker was operating a robot suit lifting and moving giant boxes. Fitz, it's more than impressive, it's the most advanced research, testing, and training facility on the face of the planet, and I wondered if Wakanda had something to say about that. Simmons, we call it Alexandria after the library, she said, a lot more chipper than anyone should be about that reference. You know the library burned down, right? I said as we continued to walk and talk. So what is this arena you're taking me to? I asked. Fitz, the arena is our most advanced training facility, able to copy and simulate any environment on or off the planet. It is the only one of its kind on Earth, he said proudly, and I smiled to myself, remembering my training room on Nighthawk Island. Grant, plus it has some really good training bots which I'm sure you'll enjoy, he said, and I nodded as we exited the landing area and walked to a building that looked like a football stadium. As we got closer and entered the stadium, the sounds of combat could be heard, and once inside we passed many training rooms and shooting ranges. Then we reached a set of double doors. Walking through what would have been one big field if it was a regular stadium now was multiple large rooms from where we stood you could look down into and monitor everything inside. Fitz, Night Fury, I welcome you to the arena, he said, and looking in I saw multiple areas. Some were empty but others were active. One looked like a jungle and a squad if agents were going through it. Another was a firefight, another tundra. Sky, hey look, Spidey is going at it in A1, she said, following her gaze on the ceiling where screens showed which areas were being used and by who and the difficulty it was set to. Area, A1. Occupant, Spider-Man. Difficulty, Alpha. Environment, Queens, New York. Time of day, afternoon. What does Alpha difficulty mean? I asked as we walked to Area A1, wondering how difficult it was since Peter was the only one on that difficulty. Simmons, there are 5 difficulties from easiest to hardest are Delta, Charlie, Beta, Alpha, and Omega, she said, and as we approached I could see why Alpha level would be a workout as robots of all kinds chased after Spider-Man, who was being cheered on by agents and heroes. Spider-Man jumped and flipped, dodging bullets and missiles from robots of various designs and sizes, sending them back a missile into their sender. As he landed, he jumped into the air, dodging a multitude of metal snack-like hands reaching for him. But unlike most, the hands just extended after Spider-Man, and before he could web away, the arms wrapped around him, holding him in the air and allowing him to be bombarded by bullets and missiles. Test ended. Wave 15. Time 35 minutes and 21 seconds. New record. The screen appears so all could see, and people began to clap and cheer as Spidey was escorted out of the arena, and I couldn't help but notice some money exchanging hands. Okay, I'm in. How do I get down there? I said, making the 4 looks at me, and Sky smiled. POV Steve Rogers. I can see why you chose him as your team leader, but he still has a lot to learn himself, I said, and I glanced to see Fury nod slightly, still watching the area. We stood in a private conservation room that could see all the training areas. Fury, I'm more interested in how our new arrival will do, he said. Looking down I saw the figure of a man in what looked like black leather armor with a silver shield with the symbol of a dragon on it. Night Fury, right, I've heard he has interesting abilities, I said, remembering the report and footage Tony gave from the Titan attack in Korea. Fury, that's one way of putting it. You want to see the list we have so far? He asked with a tone I didn't recognize, but I nodded and a holographic screen appeared in front of me. ID, unknown. Alias, Night Fury. City, New York, Metropolis. Threat LV, unknown. Power LV, unknown, beyond Omega. Team, none, Light Fury. Rumors appeared in New York in August and the first confirmed reports were in September when contact was made by Spider-Man, who has been patrolling New York for approximately 3 months. In the short amount of time he's been active, he has shown to gain the friendship of Spider-Man, Superman, and the Fantastic Four, and has founded Monarch. Has shown a preference for stealth and intimidation tactics but has shown to have a variety of abilities making him a powerful adversary. Prefers to work alone but has shown competency to work with others or even lead thanks to statements from the Juggernaut incident, both Amazos and Gorilla Grodd's attacks in Metropolis and the recent New York Titan incident. Has at this time refused to join S.Agi.L.D multiple times but is willing to work with us. Night Fury is 16 to 25, possibly a high school or college student, and has an unknown relationship with Light Fury, possibly family rated. Ability: Transformation, Flight, Pyrokinesis, Super Strength, Super Speed, Enhanced Sight, Enhanced Hearing, Energy Project, Conjuration, Extreme Endurance, Possible Healing Factor, Teleportation. Reading the report, I raised an eyebrow and looked back at the arena, which had already begun to change its environment. I looked up at the settings and raised an eyebrow. Area, A1. Occupant, Night Fury. Difficulty, Omega. Environment, Yellowstone National Park. Time of day, sundown. POV Night Fury. I watched as the football field-sized arena changed to be a correlated area and I immediately began to walk and then run as I only had a 10-second head start. Then as I mentally counted down to 3, I transformed fully into Wraith and I felt different. Unlike every other time I transformed, I felt complete, like I didn't need to keep my monstrous instincts in check or suppressed. Tron, what is happening? I feel different. I asked as I continued to stake through the forest waiting for my prey to arrive. It didn't feel bad but new, like having to hold a lid on a pot that threatened to burst open or hold a door closed keeping something locked inside, but now I didn't need to fight anything and I could use my monsters without worrying over my instincts taking control. It would seem you have completely melded with your monsters thanks to the new skill you received. As I stalked, my echolocation picked something up, 12 soldiers, and I smiled. I followed the group hidden in the shadow of the trees waiting for a straggler, then I saw it for a moment and I jumped out and grabbed the soldier with abduction. The soldier screamed bloody murder as I grabbed them and disappeared with them into the forest, leaving a bioluminescent trail. The group tried and failed to hit me, failing to even land a graze as I dragged the screaming man. I found a clearing and dropped the man off, pretending to drop him as I floated off hidden and watching. My blood felt like it was on fire as I watched how they ran towards their injured and panicking comrades, sending a decoy to distract them. I turned invisible to ambush them. If only they were real meat, the thought passed through my mind and I felt myself drool and my stomach growl. I'll eat something after I have my fan. As the 12 surrounded their comrade, my decoy did its job as they all began to fire at it and I snuck behind the group. As I was 5 feet away, my decoy charged at the group and exploded into a bioluminescent mist. The robots looked genuinely confused. If I didn't know any better I would mistake them for humans, but none of them had a heartbeat or body heat. Firing a warp blast, what looked like a condensed black ball of energy, into the middle of them, I blasted them all to the ground onto their backs or face first. I roared and the soldiers screamed and began cutting up their prone forms. After 10 seconds the fake forest was silent and the ground was covered with the chopped up bodies of robots. Ski. Wave 2. The room announced quickly and I felt a change of clothes would be appropriate. After some thought I switched from Wraith to Black Light Virus and changed my Night Fury armor to my power armor, wearing it for the first time. Monster Black Light Virus. Title: Red Death. LV 25. Stats: STR 200. Dex 275. Int 10. Biomass 1,145,000. Skills: Hive Mind. Grants the pandemic system. Thermal Vision. Infection Vision. Can see and manipulate the virus/hive mind from a distance. Biomass Manipulation. I am Limitless Potential. User can manipulate their biomass to increase the stats of STR and Dex. Can create weapons and armor from the biomass collected. Consume. I hunger for meat. Can consume biomass form of biological creatures with DNA, gaining their memories, skills, and abilities. Critical Mass. Can release the gathered biomass into an area of effect attack. Item: Power Armor. Gives ×4 STR and Dex. Stealth Mode. Energy Shield. Energy Sword. Okay, this is new, I said. Being a hive mind virus was a weird feeling, and having that feeling multiplied by 4 was even weirder than a green screen with yellow words appearing. Welcome back to the pandemic system. Would you like to evolve your plague? Y/N. Before I could think about pressing yes or no, an orange field appears around me. Looking down, bullets were hitting the shield, following where the bullets are coming from. I see a small army of soldiers firing on me. They even have a few Humvees on opposite sides. Looking at my suit's HUD, the shields are at 96%. I guess I should get started testing out this form's abilities, I thought, stretching a little before walking toward the soldiers. Then time seems to slow to a crawl. The bullets seem to freeze in midair. I move out of the way of them and approach the soldiers and stop and stand right in front of them, though their facial feathers are still focused on where I once stood. Out of curiosity, looking back, I see my own after images walking from where I was standing treating and walking to where I am now. Why am I so fast? Is it because of the suit, or was Alex Mercer always this fast? I thought as I extended my left hand and watched as it transformed into a long blade. Both actually. I nod, bringing the blade arm down, but as I do I notice the suit has enhanced my blade arm, giving the edge of the blade an orange glow. Maybe I should retire my Night Fury armor, I thought, sighting through each robot like butter before heading back to where I stood originally. Time resumed, and as quickly as the forest was filled with the sound of gunfire, now it was quiet once again. So what's next? I said to observers, picking out what monster to use next. Wave 3 Chapter 93, showing off a little. POV Spider-Man. Walking out of the infirmary with a clean bill of health, the exception being some scratches and bruises, I make my way back to the arena observation area only to run into a familiar group of 4. Ben, hey Webed, good to see ya again. Ben Grimm, the thing said as he gave me a soft, by his standard, smack on the back. Hey, Ben, Susan, Johnny, Reed, what are you guys doing here? I asked, but I'm sure I already know the answer. Johnny, probably for the same reason you are figuring out our plan to beat up some mermaids, he said, receiving a slap on the back of the head from Susan. Susan, we're here for the meeting, but since it won't start for a while we decided to look around, she said, and I nodded. Reed, we heard a majority of those invites had gathered here, he said, and I nodded. The arena had always been busy but not. Well, I'm heading back to the observation area, it's just a few minutes this way, I said, and lead the Fantastic Four. It only took a few minutes, and as we walked in, the place was packed with agents and masked individuals alike, all watching. Black Cat, Spider over here, and I see you've brought some friends, Felicia said. I nodded and introduced the four to Black Cat. Ben, you said this place was busy, but this is kind of excessive, isn't it? Ben said, and I nodded. Looking around, I saw many people looking down into the training area or at a screen, but then I noticed the look of disbelief on Felicia's face. Black Cat, wait, you don't know, she said, her look of disbelief becoming a sly smile. Come with me, the others got one of the private observation rooms before word spread too far, she said, and I glanced at the four before shrugging my shoulders and following along. Walking into a room the size of a small movie theater, I saw White Tiger, Squirrel Girl, Cloak, Dagger, Kid Flash, Speedy, and two others I'd never met before. White Tiger, hey Spy, see you've recovered from your session, she said, and we joined them seated. Yes, so what's got everyone dash? Before I could finish talking, a gasp of surprise from Susan Storm turned my attention from her to the screen she was staring at and that I somehow missed entirely. On screen was Night Fury wearing armor I hadn't seen before, black like the night sky with a wolf-like helmet with glowing red eyes and a massive sword. He sat atop a hill made of destroyed vehicles and robots. Image. When did Night Fury get here? I asked no one in particular, then my eyes almost popped out of my mask as I read the stats of the session. Area, A1. Occupant, Night Fury. Difficulty, Omega. Environment, Yellowstone National Park. Time of day, sundown. Wave, 8. Black Cat, actually funny thing is he started right after you got taken to the infirmary, she said, much to my shock. I was gone for 7 minutes 10 tops. How is he finished off wave 8 on Omega level? That's impossible, I said, the memory of the meaning of each difficulty coming to mind. Flashback. The champions and I lay on the ground sweaty and out of breath. The steps of military boots made us aware of someone approaching. Bending my head up, I saw Black Widow, a small smile on her face. Black Widow, not bad for a bunch of rookies. Get yourselves cleaned up and meet me in the observation area, she said before walking away. After 8 minutes we all arrived to find Agent Coulson sitting at a table with Black Widow standing a little behind him, leaning against the wall. Coulson, I'm going to ask you all some questions, he said to us. We all glanced at each other. No introduction this time, I thought. Remembering Coulson's usual chipper attitude was gone. I couldn't think of a time when I had seen the man so serious. Coulson, can you tell me what each difficulty level means, he said, and White Tiger stepped forward. White Tiger, each difficulty represents a threat level. Delta is a city, block, or small town. Charlie is a small city or multiple towns. Beta is multiplied cities. Alpha is country or continental, and Omega level is a world threat, she said, and Coulson nodded. Coulson, today was your first time training on Alpha level. Can someone tell me how it differed from your usual level Beta, he asked, and Felicia stepped forward. Black Cat, the response time, how and what each unit responded with, she said, and Coulson nodded and stood up. Coulson, remember champions, you are meant to be the reserve. The plan C if A and or B fail or are unavailable, because in recent years we have come far too close to extinction, he said before dismissing us. Squirrel Girl, what was that about? She asked. The question hung in the air like the smell of Aunt May's original cheese casserole. It's a reminder that we came far too close to extinction 2 years in a row, I said, remembering the news of the Kryptonians and Superman's battle. That was before I got my powers. Then the portal over New York. I had barely begun being Spider-Man then. Squirrel Girl, yeah, it's hard to believe how much things have changed, she said, and her furry partner gave a quick nod. Black Cat, I don't think that's what Coulson wanted us to think about. Did you guys ever look at the threat levels of the Kryptonian incident and the portal? After a quick moment of silence, Felicia spoke. Both were Omega level, she said. Flashback end. Is Night Fury already strong enough to fight with the Avengers and Justice League? I thought, watching as the 8th wave marched forward in mass and Night Fury charged forward and roared like a raging beast, bringing his sword down, directing any that we're unfortunate enough to be in range. POV Cyclops aka Scott Summers. What did you find out? I said through the telepathic link as we made small talk. Jean, all guests are here, we're just waiting on Night Fury now, she said while talking to Squirrel Girl, who watched the training session like it was a movie. And any word from Professor X? I asked, but only got a negative response as I watched the battle unfold. POV Batman. Robin, okay, that is pretty cool, Dick said, and I would agree. Of what was witnessing wasn't in my mind a terrifying amount of power being blatantly used in front of many eyes and under supervision. Why now? Why in front of so many when you usually keep your power in check, giving only glimpses of its true depths? I wondered, and an idea came to mind. This is a display of power, and most likely this isn't even half of what you can do, right, Night Fury? And once again giving only a glimpse of what you are capable of, but why here? Why now in front of all these people? POV Night Fury. Wave 8, completed. Wave 9, beginning in 1 minute. Who, this is some warm-up. What do you think, Tron? I asked, sitting on a pile of metal. I think maybe you've shown enough of your powers for S.HEI.L.D, but why now that you know Hydra has infiltrated it? Because this place might be a training center, but it's so obvious that they're gauging threat levels, I decided to fix my numbers early, I thought, sitting back. So that's your plan? Let S.HEI.L.D and in essence, Hydra gather information on you, but only what you want to show them. And make it look so impressive that once I dive they'll believe that they know my limits and all my tricks, I thought, looking through my inventory. Taking in a couple of deep breaths, trying to calm down the rage instilled in me by Berserker armor also made it look like I was getting tired as I sat up and lifted Dragonslayer with a slight delay and placed it on my shoulder. Wave 9, beginning in 30 seconds. So what monster will it be this time? After a moment of thought I equipped Bedrock Gargoyle and felt a cold determination fill me, but what came out to face me surprised me. Image. Aren't those the robot T-Rex made by the Toy Man? I said out loud, remembering the 3 robots that my Red Eyes deck destroyed by the robotic beast side were armored vehicles. Wave 9, start. Roar, they roared but don't charge, instead lowered themselves and took aim with the large cannon on their backs. POV Susan Storm. Isn't this a bit much? I couldn't help but ask as Johnny and Ben took bets from those in the room and Reed looked over the data. I watched as Night Fury dodged each beam of red energy only to get bombarded by the armored vehicles as he got closer until he was only a few feet away from the robots. RROARR, the robots let out a high-pitched roar that blasted, rippled the air and destroyed the ground. Reed, incredible, they incorporated the sonic cannon designed to subdue the Hulk inside the robots' mouths, he said. Fascinates hearing a slap. I looked to see Black Cat and White Tiger give each other a thumbs up while Ben and Johnny looked depressed. Johnny, come on Night Fury, don't let some scrap iron lizards best you, he yelled. I put my head in my hands, then felt a hand on my shoulder. Looking up I saw Reed. Reed, don't worry, from what I can see Night Fury will be just fine, he said, and I nodded, thanking him as we watched. All 3 giant robots moved forward with the armored vehicles forward, continuing to fire on Night Fury, who was looking worse for wear. Then the giant sword he held disappeared and in its place 2 swords now were held in each hand, one black the other blue. The robots blasted Night Fury again with the sonic attack, but he did not move, having stabbed both swords into the ground, keeping him in place. Suddenly Night Fury jumped into the air and extended from his back 2 wings that looked like smoothed marble appeared. With one flap of his wings, he flew forward and decapitated the first of the 3. Not losing any momentum, he jumps towards the next one, only for the robot to throw itself backward. RROARR, the sonic attack this time succeeded in blasting Night Fury back, but instead of tumbling on the ground he used the blast to fly higher than come down on the robot. Both began firing their back-mounted lasers at their target, but he dodged each shot until he landed on the back of one and tore the laser off its back, causing a chain reaction and making the entire robot explode. Johnny and Ben cheered while Night Fury dismantled the final robot and dispatched all the armored vehicles, quickly leaving only burnt out or crushed metal on the floor. Wave 10, beginning in 3 minutes. Spider-Man, oh no, Spider-Man said, and everyone knew looked at him. When the timer goes up like that usually means it's preparing something, he said. Ben, come on kid, you got this. Johnny, yeah, crush whatever tin cans come your way. Reed, not to be the bearer of bad news, but from what I have observed Night Fury has slowed down significantly, he said, much to their horror and Black Cat and White Tiger's amusement. POV Carlson. Fitz, I was hoping we could get a closer look at his arm piece, he said, and in the corner of my eye Simmons nodded her head. Sky, Will, who knows, maybe this time we'll see it, she said hopefully. But from what I could see Night Fury was probably done this or the next round. His breathing was heavy as he leaned on his 2 swords. Grant, probably not, but maybe you can ask him after he'd out of the infirmary, he said with a smile only for it to fall from his face as the arm piece extend. You were saying Agent Grant, I said, a small smile on my face. POV Night Fury. Well, what do you think, red eyes, blue eyes, or maybe something else? I thought, watching the timer go down. Why not Dark Magician? It will be ironic in a way. I nodded, requiring my dark magic deck and activating my dual disc. Would you mind if I do something fun? Not at all, do your thing, Tron, I thought, as in front and behind me came out 3 suits of blue armor with red glowing lights. So S.HEI.L.D did copy the Ironmonger armor, I thought as the timer counted down. I waited for my hand on my deck as the time went down. 5. 0.4. 0.3. 0.2. 0.1. Begin/duel. The robots imminently began firing at me, but I dodged to the side and glanced at my hand. 1 Dark Magician. 2 Apple Magician Girl. 3 Magician's Soul. 4 Bond between teacher and student. 5 Dark Magical Circle. Just what I need. This duel might not even last 5 turns, I said as I dodged mini missiles and the charging metal fists. First I activate my spell card Dark Magical Circle and bring a card to my hand, then I active Magician's Soul. I send Dark Magician and it to the graveyard, but only for a moment, as the effect of my Magician's Soul special summons Dark Magician to the field, I said. I'm front of me a blue silhouette of 2 being flouted at my side surrounded by a magic circle, then the magic circle disappeared in a ball of black energy and after a moment with a swipe of his staff now stood Dark Magician. Monster Dark Magician. Attribute Dark. Level -7. Spellcaster/normal. Stats. Attack 2500. Defense 2100. Description. The ultimate wizard in terms of attack and defense. I could die happy, I thought, as one of the most iconic monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh's history floated beside me, the companion of the king of games himself. Now I activate the spell Bound between teacher and student. This spell strengthens the bond between master and student. Come to your master's side, Dark Magician Girl, I shouted. Monster Dark Magician Girl. Attribute Dark. Level -6. Spellcaster/effect. Stats. Attack 2000. Defense 1700. Effect. Gain 300 attack for every Dark Magician or Dark Magician of Black Chaos in the GYs. And with her, she brings a spell to the field, but you won't wait long to see it, I said, not even dodging anymore as the armored suites tried and failed to attack my monsters, and I as Dark Magician kept a hand raised, forming an invisible shield in front of both me and Mark Magician Girl, who floated beside me and gave me a wink. Now I activate the spell Dark Burning Magic. Spell Dark Burning Magic. Quick play spell. Effect. If you control monsters whose original names are Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl, destroy all your opponent's monsters and spells on the field. Magical energy began to gather as the 2 magicians brought their staffs together, gathering the energy in a gold and black swirling mass of unstable energy and pointing it at the robots. This might have gone a bit overboard. Worth it, I thought as my vision became blurred and my body was thrown back. Chapter 94 Fish Food. POV Night Fury. Titles gained? Show off. You like to show off your power to the masses, friends, or foes, especially the latter. True duelist. The heart of the cards is with you every time you duel. I sat in an auditorium with many others around me at the moment. The Fantastic Four minus Reed behind me, Spider-Man and Black Cat to my left, White Tiger and others to my right, and the agents of S.HEI.L.D in front of me minus Coulson. Johnny, so can you summon hot girls anytime you want? Smack, Johnny began to say, only to get a smack to the head by Susan Storm. Susan, Johnny, seriously, she said. Johnny held up his hands. I guess I'll throw him a bone, I thought. I could, but I don't need to because unlike you I'm in a relationship, I said, not even looking back at the human touch, though I heard the thing laugh out loud from the comment. Spider-Man, so how does the arm thing work? Hard light projection, he guessed, and I shook my head. It's called a dual disc, and even if I told you how it worked you wouldn't believe me, I said, getting a few looks from the scientists around me. White Tiger, it's magic, right? She said, and for a long moment I was silent, unlike Fitz and Simmons, who sighed. Both looked tired. Ben, magic, you're joking, he said, but White Tiger shook her head and touched her amulet. White Tiger, my amulet is what gives my powers. It was passed down to me by my father, the previous White Tiger. She explained, much to my interest. I didn't know much about the White Tiger, only seeing her in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. You're right, it is magic, but I summoned the dual spirits of the cards in my decks, I said, and I heard Fitz mutter something about looking at the amulet with a stronger scanner. Sky, so magic is real? That's awesome, she said, and I rolled my eyes. Your agency worked with the god of thunder from Norse mythology. How can you not think magic is real? I asked. Simmons, most of the so-called magic can be explained without it being some dash. Before she could finish I extended my dual disc and thanks to quick draw grabbed and summoned a monster. In a small flash of light in front of everyone's surprised faces was a small ball of fur with 2 white wings, 2 large eyes and small green arms and legs. Monster winged Kuraba. Attribute light. Level 1. Fairy/effect. Stats. Attack 300. Defense 200. Effect. If this card on the field is destroyed and sent to the GY, for the rest of this turn, you take no battle damage. Everyone said, seeing the fur ball land on my shoulder and nuzzle into my neck. Everyone is like to introduce you all to winged Kuraba, I said, letting them all examine Kuraba up close. This went on for about 5 minutes when Nick Fury walked in with Reed Richards, Charles Xavier, Iron Man, Captain America, Superman, Guardian, and many representatives. Fury, as you all know, a new threat has appeared, but this time far closer to home. This man called Namor says he's the king of Atlantis. After a quick explanation of the situation and a few updates on what we knew and what we didn't know about them, it was time to talk strategy. The first to speak was Hank Pym, who sat next to Janet Van Dyne. Much to my surprise, this universe was more like Avengers, Earth's mightiest heroes, rather than the MCU. Ant-Man, why not give them what they want? He suggested, much to the outrage and flabbergasted representatives and a few heroes. After a few minutes of calming everyone down, Ant-Man was allowed to go into more detail. Ant-Man, all I'm saying is this Namor isn't asking for anything too ridiculous and borders can be negotiated, he explained. French rep, tell that to the 100+ counties. This will immediately affect if we do accept, the man said. Xavier, so we're not even going to attempt peace and accept a war with open arms, he said, getting a few dirty looks from a few representatives. Steve Rogers, we're not here to debate politics, we're here to come up with a plan for if or when this threat decides to attack, Captain America explained, getting the room back on track. The Avengers, Justice League, Alpha Flight, and X-Men will be sending a member each to any major cities bordering the Atlantic. While there are to train any local heroes or to help prepare the surrounding area with evacuation plans for civilians and help military units get to the fighting. But deciding who would go where became an issue, with America, Canada, and Mexico wanting to keep some of the heavy hitters. To compromise, Shazam, Wonder Woman, and Iron Man would be deployed in Portugal, Spain, and France respectively. After what felt like days of talking but was probably less than 3 hours, we all had a general idea of what to do and everyone was given a communicator. Alright Sky, say goodbye to winged Kuraba, I said, watching as she hugged the winged fur ball only for it to disappear in a flash of light. And before anything else was said, I teleported back to Nighthawk Island to find my kids nowhere to be seen. Looking around, I noticed all the kids inside watching TV. That's strange, they usually outside playing, I thought, and then I noticed Artnix wearing her light fury armor, but before I asked why or could say hi, my clone that I left approached me covered in blood. Before anyone could see, I grabbed him and teleported to the hangar bay. What the hell happened? I yelled at myself, seeing him covered in blood and with red eyes. I knew he was using my Grim King transformation. Clone, it's probably better if I showed you rather than explained, he said, and only then did I notice the spears stuck in my back. After a nod, the clone combined with me and I relived the hours I was gone. Flashback. Tommy, Jason, stop trying to eat your plates, I shouted, and the sound of gnawing teeth on plates stopped as I took the plates from them. Tommy/Jason, more/hungry, they said, and I shook my head. These two were bottomless pits, I thought as I washed the dishes. You guys just finished eating double what your sister ate, now go play outside, I said. The two grumbled and growled before heading out of the living room. Just as I finished and went to sit down, the lights flickered on and off. Much to my confusion, I got up and was about to look around when, as I reached the doorway, I heard the many running steps, and rushing around the corner I saw all the kids, lead by B.Aguman and B.Gabuman. What's going on? I asked, and before the two Digimon could speak, Artnix spoke with the hatchling around her neck. Artnix, there are blue people on the beach, they pulled something from the water, she said, and I felt my blood run cold then red hot. Kids, stay inside until I come back. Gabuman, watch the kids, okay, I said, getting a nod from both. Artnix, can I come? She asked, and I shook my head and knelt in front of her. Not this time, because I need Light Fury here to watch over her siblings. All right, I said, and Artnix nodded and rushed to her room to equip her armor. Teleporting outside, I fully transformed into Indominu's Rax and quietly made my way to the beach. I saw a ripple in the air and used observation. Name Advance Antlantian Scout. Watching the ripple in the forest getting closer as I stood still, hidden because of my skills camouflage and cold-blooded, the scout couldn't detect me at all. Finally, it was just a few feet in front of me when I jumped out and bit down. The scout didn't even have a chance to scream. I should spit this out, I thought, only to find myself struggling to do it and fight the instinct to swallow the cadaver in my maw. After a minute of struggling I bite the bullet, and I ate the scout. I tried to ignore the weird satisfaction I got from eating the scout and made my way now on the lookout for more scouts. As I reached the edge of the forest I saw what was made my blood boil as Atlanteans moved supplies and vehicles from the ocean onto the beach. How the hell did they not set off the alarms? I thought and used observation and found how they did it. A tower that was labeled EMP tower by the system was set up in the middle of the camp. Kratom, kratom, kratom. Roar! I let out a roar of pain as I'm pushed back from a billy of blasts from soldiers. Seeing I've been spotted, I rush out of the tree line towards the camp and roar. Skill. Monsters roar. Effect on enemy changes on the selected monster. Monster equals Indominus Rex. Stun the enemy for 1 minute. All nearby enemies have, for 2 minutes. Damage x2. The sound of my roar stops most of the Atlanteans as I rush forward, claws outstretched and maw open. The first Atlantean is split in half by a single bit. Those near him are sliced in half by my claws, but it doesn't slow down my charge, as those that I miss I just steep on and hear a small pop, crunch, splat in that order. For a minute they stand and stare as I slaughtered them. After that the ones I missed started to scream as they fled to the water. You invade my home and scare my children and think you're leaving alive, I thought, and let out a roar as I chased the fleeing, destroying the EMP tower with a flick of my tail running past. As I reached the water I transformed from Indominus Rex to Abyssal Lagiacrus and swam after them. Seeing the fleeing fish I felt a hunger that I didn't refuse as I let my monster's instinct take hold, and in a burst of energy I electrocuted the surrounding water, stunning the fleeing Atlanteans. I don't know how, but I heard their screaming and begging, and some were even praying to Poseidon, calling for help through their now dead communicators. And I felt nothing as I butchered them and succeed their noisy screaming, turning the water around me a dark red. Flashback end. Well fuck, that's all I could say after watching that. Tron the fuck, my clone went and did a massacre and ate people, I said, remembering the blood-covered clone and now wanting barf. It seems that your clones, when fully transformed, don't resist the instincts of your monsters as well as you do. What am I going to do? I leave for Stana Industries tomorrow, and now I learn that my clones can't control themselves, and after one killed a group of Atlantean troops, I said, now pacing. The clones seem to only lose themselves when they transform fully, and in combat otherwise, they seem normal. Okay, and from what I felt they won't attack the kids, so they're only dangerous to, well, everyone else, I said, nodding my head only to hear a door open and see Artnix, who upon seeing rushed me and hugged me. Artnix, are the blue people gone? She asked, and I nodded my head. For now, but I don't want you or your siblings playing outside for a while, okay? I said, much to her disappointment. Artnix, but we'll be careful and you can watch us play and play with us. She said, I would like nothing else, but sending a clone to a fancy ball to make nice doesn't sound like a good idea. Fine, you guys can play outside, but not for too long, and you have to stick with your siblings and I'll be watching over you all, I said, and she squealed happily and jumped from my arms, running off to her siblings. Tron, anyway, to improve the defense systems of the island, at least to where they won't shut off by that EMP tower? I asked. A few of your forms would be sufficient to protect and patrol the island, but if I were to suggest one, why not your new Dryad form? Monster Dryad. Title none. LV1. Stats. STR 65. Dex 70. Int 55. Energy none. Skills. Fey Charm. The Dryad targets one humanoid or beast that regards the Dryad as a trusted friend to be heeded and protected. Tree Stride. You gain the ability to enter a tree and move from inside it to inside another tree of the same kind. Beast Shape. Take the shape of any of nature's creations. Nature's Command. Can command and speak with plants and animals. Nature's Wrath. You have the power to control all the elements of nature and unleash them on your enemies. Nature's Friend. You are seen by all of nature as a friend. Whistle. This is almost cheating at this point. None of this costs anything, I said, checking out the skills of Dryad. Just as I was about finished I felt something land on me. Looking up I see my little hatchling. Have you gotten bigger, hatching? I asked, petting its head. They were now the size of a German Shepherd and had a much larger wing than I'm used to, so I used observation. Name none. Monster Ender Dragon Youngling. LV-10. Stats. STR 14. Dex 17. Int 10. Energy 200. Skills. Baby Dragon Breath. Fire a stream of hot purple mist. You have gotten bigger and stronger. I think it's time for you to give your name, I said, much to the hatchling's joy. Hey Tron, can you check their gender? I asked. The youngling is a girl. Well, let's go tell your brothers and sister Luna, much to the young dragon's joy. POV Namer, King of Atlantis. Location, Atlantis. I sat on my throne listening to reports of enemy troop movements and these so-called heroes when suddenly one got my attention. What do you mean we've had no word from one of our surface teams? I asked, stopping the general's train of thought. General, they have not responded to any communication and we have not received any as well. We are organized. I raised my hand, silencing the man. Send a Tuma with whatever forces you're organizing. He's been wanting to stretch his legs on land, I said, getting a deep bow from the general as I laid back on my throne. Chapter 95 Assault on Nighthawk Island. POV Max Draco. I sat in my private jet going through the system shop, buying, upgrading, and selling monsters, items, and skills, but I couldn't help but feel a little worried about leaving the kids alone after killing those Atlantean troops. What do you think, Tron? I asked, looking at the 3 options to evolve Zilla. Each looked powerful and I'd become indecisive. Zilla JR, Burning. V. Zilla JR, Deep Dark. Zilla JR, Red Death. Zilla JR, Atomic Fury. I would recommend Atomic Fury. Why that one and not Red Death or Deep Dark? I asked. Based on how you like to fight, you enjoy having the speed advantage. Atomic Fury, unlike the other two, will allow you to keep that advantage. I nodded at the explanation, imagining myself tanking blows instead of dodging them, and I shook my head. Zilla JR is a Rouge fighter, not a tank. After a moment of hesitation, I pressed evolve and my vision was filled with blue screens. Name Max Draco. Monster, Atomic Fury, Zilla JR. Titles Prince of the Monsters, The Scourge of Lemuria, Alpha Titan. LV-1. Stats. STR 465. Dex 425. Int 70. Energy 2 million. Skills. Atomic flame burn in the flame of stars. Eng 5000. A green fire that can burn and destroy everything, only the rarest of materials may survive. Burning fang and claws. Eng 2000. Charge your fangs and claws with radiation. Deal ×2 damage. Atomic ray O death, where is your sting? Eng 10,000. Fire a concentrated beam of energy. Atomic blue flame. Eng 15,000. Release a torrent of blue flames that anything other than another alpha titan will not survive this flame. Atomic release, don't press the big red button. Release all your energy in an AoE around you or a beam. Warpath, if they want war, ill give it to them. Enter a rage state until your enemies are dead or have submitted. All stats x5. Burning transformation, I am death, the destroyer of worlds. Eng 10,000 per minute. All stats x20. All skills ×5 damage. Everything in a 2-mile radius is dealt burning, electric, and poison damage. Atomic fury transformation, pray for mercy all you like, but I won't be listening. Eng 50,000 per minute. Dash. Alpha Titan aura deactivated. Your presence makes those around you nervous and in awe. Weaker enemies will be unable to approach you. Can force people around you or under your gaze if weak enough to bow. Can be boosted with energy to force those around you to go unconscious. Alpha roar, bow to your king. Control the kaiju under you and they must follow your orders. 5 subordinates available. As I read through the new skills, I suddenly felt a little lightheaded at how powerful I had become. Maybe I've gone a bit too far, I thought, but after a bit, I shrugged. Too late now, and after a few minutes I was told we would be landing soon. POV Warlord Atuma. Location, offshore of Nighthawk Island. Sir, we have found what remains of the missing surface team, the soldier said, and I nodded. Well, bring them to me so I may hear of what happened, but the face of the soldier suddenly shifted into a look of disgust and fear. Soldier, sir, that won't be possible. All the surface team members were found dead or missing, he explained. After a few minutes, what was left of their equipment was brought back. After finding an intact helmet, did we, me and my commanders, find out what happened? Soldier, Neptune's beard, one lieutenant muttered as we watched the bloodbath 2 creatures had incited on the surface troops. One was a strange-looking surface creature with white scales and blood-red eyes. The other was a creature of the ocean I had never seen before, scales as black as the deepest trench with spikes across its back that fuels with blue energy. Interesting creatures, but irrelevant. Send the troops up to occupy the beach and send squads to begin scouting the island and capture any interesting creatures, if not kill them, but preserve the bodies for study, I said, and all my commanders bowed and moved out. POV Jason, Comodothrax. I lay on a large rock letting the sun beat down on my scales, as not too far away was Tommy and who chasing after Luna, with Artnix watching over us in a big tree with Papa who slept next to her. Just as I was about to take a nap, I heard something and I looked around but didn't see anything, and nobody else had heard anything, so I laid down again on my hot rock when I smelled something. Sniff sniff. Food, I thought, and after making sure no one would notice, I got up and snuck into the forest and followed the smell of food. Following the smell for a few minutes, I found a pile of fish and rushed toward it, and began devouring the fish, enjoying the salty taste. I should get Tommy and show him my fish, I thought, when the world became blurry and my body became heavy. Oh no, I thought as I tried to move and found it hard to even stand and keep my eyes open. Whimper whine / Papa help, I tried to call out, but my voice came out as a whimper and I felt fear as I couldn't move anymore, and I saw strangers move out of the forest. Look at this thing, one said, wearing strange armor that looked like it was made of black stone. This place does have strange creatures, another said, poking my side, and I felt my stomach turn as I tried to call out. Whimper whine, whimper whine. How in Neptune's name is this thing even conscious? It ate half of the pile, a female one asked, looking down straight into my eye. Who cares, take the thing back to Atuma and wrap up its mouth, its whining is annoying, the biggest of them said, tossing a rope to the female. Ruoar. The roar echoed and vibrated the air, causing the strangers to freeze and look at each other, and then they began dragging me onto a metal platform that rose a little into the air and began following them as they ran. What the hell was that? The female said, forgetting to wrap my mouth as she ran, and I continued to whimper and whine. Don't know, don't care, keep running and keep your eyes open, the big one said. Only he and everyone else stopped in their tracks as gigantic vines suddenly burst from the ground surrounding me. What the? Swish. Enemy close, he's dash crack. The trees, it's in dash ratata snap. Open fire. Ratata ratata crunch. Ratata ratata swish, ratata crack. After the final cracking noise, the forest goes silent, and after a moment the vines that were covering me recede into the ground and father was walking toward me. Night Fury, are you okay? Jason, are you hurt? He asked, and I shook my head. They didn't hurt me, but I was scared and I can't move my legs, I * growled out, and he looked me over before patting my head. Night Fury, okay, looks like you'll be alright in a few minutes, he said, and we were suddenly inside the large hangar room. POV Night Fury. Tommy, Jason, you're okay, Tommy yelled, running over and hugging his brother who was still paralyzed and struck in his monster form. Artnix, what were you thinking sneaking away? She asked, tears streaming down her face, and hugged him as well, with Luna curling up on his back letting out a soft chirping. Jason, I'm sorry, he growled, and I nodded, parting him on the head. Aguman, you're coming with me. Gabuman, stay here and guard the kids if you need help. Artnix, open the pokeball. Okay, I said, getting a nod from them. Artnix, but you said I wasn't ready to control him yet, she said, looking up at me, and I put a hand on her shoulder. Remember what I said, you just need to be firm and believe in yourself and he will listen to anything you say, got it? I asked, and Artnix nodded firmly. Bringing out my Digivice, it glowed a white light, and both Digimon Digivolved. Greymon barely fitting into the hangar with his horns scraping the ceiling. Teleporting outside, I appeared on Greymon's shoulder. Deal with the ones on the beach, I'll get the ones in the forest and then join you, I said, and got a nod of confirmation as I teleported down and transformed fully into Dryad and listened to nature as it told me where my enemies were. POV Warlord Atuma. I watched as my troops went to and fro from the beach, and the data from my scouts showed the island in greater detail by the moment. When suddenly a flash of orange light came from above and the charred bodies of some troops fell back into the ocean. What is going on? Report surface base, I asked, and I was making my way to the surface, my 4 personal guards next to me. It came out of the forest but before the soldier could finish, Nova Flame, the words sounded more like a roar as the communication failed. Making it to the surface, I saw the rebuilt camp on fire and a far different creature from the footage now attacking. Its scale was a blue-gray with a black strip pattern going down its back to its tail and some on its side with an exposed skull helm with horns. Neptune beard, what is that thing? One of the many soldiers who followed said as they rushed forward and began firing on the creatures, but the attacks did nothing. Tell our soldier to fall back, I shall handle this personally, I said, and my guards did as instructed as I walked towards the beast. Noticing the retreat, its eyes locked onto me and it opened its mouth to show rows of sharp teeth, but what caught my attention was the light coming from down its gullet. Nova Flame, it asterisk roared, and I dodged the ball of flame, letting sail past me to the creature's surprise. Not missing the opportunity, one leaped forward, smashing into its chest, sending it flying backward back into the forest, where it crashed into multiple trees, shaping them apart. But to my surprise, it got up quickly, a look of determination on its face as it unleashed another ball of flame, which I dodged only to be surprised as the creature rushed forward, horns first. Great antler bash, the creature bellowed as it tried to impale me on its horn, but I reacted just in time to catch the horn. My muscles tensed as I was pushed back by the charge, but with all my strength I stopped the charging beast. RAAH with a shout grabbed my weird off my back and brought it down, cutting the horn of the creature. The creature recoiled in pain, but with its horn in my hand I tossed it to the side and laughed. Is that the best you can do, creature? I asked, and the creature glared down at me. Human, no, it declared, and with a speed that surprised me it spun on its feet and smashed its tail into me, sending me sprawling, kicking up a small sand cloud. Nova Flame, it declared, and I looked up just in time to see the ball flame leave its mouth. Not able to dodge, I felt the intense heat connect and explode on me, pushing me back and causing my skin to go pink. Taking a moment to think, thanks to the sand cloud around me, I rushed forward, sword in hand. The creature tried to unleash another ball of flame, but I reached him first. With all my might I punched the knee of the creature, getting a resounding crack, and the creature had pain written on its face. But I wasn't finished. With a mighty leap I punched into its lower jaw, causing its head to snap back and fall on its back and letting me land on its chest, forcing the wind out of it. Well done, creature, now you will have the honor of being my first trophy I will add to my future palace on the surface, I said, and lifted my weird above my head and brought it down. Clang thwack. Punch back off of the creature. I looked to where I stood on its chest to see an armored warrior knelt next to the creature. Who dares to interrupt the great warlord Atuma? I said, and the armored warrior turned to look at me. You did this, they asked, and as I was about to reply I stopped. The air felt wrong and my entire body began to shake. What is happening? I thought as I tried to calm down, only to find myself unable to control my body. I asked you a question, they said, and took a step forward, and I instinctively took a step back. And what if I did? I taunted, and instantly my instinct screamed at me and I dropped to the floor as a pillar of lightning flew past where I once stood. Looking up, saw the suit of armor hadn't even moved and hadn't lifted a finger. Well, if you did, suddenly they were gone, only to see they had appeared next to me, helmed face a few inches away from mine. IWONTMAKEITQUICK Chapter 96 Sending a Message. POV Max Draco. Maybe I should switch back to high human, I said, sitting inside the massive and ornate hotel room right now. I have Zilla JR, Atomic Fury. I thought you wanted to see the long-lasting effects of your aura ability and your other passive skills from your human form. Yeah, but I'm not sure how comfortable I am with having everyone act like I'm a king walking past them, I said, remembering the strange interaction ever since I got off the plane. People bowed their heads to me, giving me plenty of personal space, giving me major discounts or upgrading me for free, and a lot of strange reactions from women and men seemingly becoming passive around me. I'm surprised you aren't fascinated by the fact some abilities might have different effects on people. Yeah, I guess it is interesting, I said, nodding, and I couldn't help but see the similarities between Alpha Titan's aura and Conqueror's Haki from One Piece, and with partial transmission I can replicate armament and observation Haki. As I was deep in thought I heard a knock at my door. Shrugging, I walked up to it and was surprised when I looked outside to see Samuel Jackson wearing an eye patch and a trench coat standing outside my door. What the hell is Fury doing here? I thought, but unlike my thoughts, I felt nothing, no fear or intimidation as I opened the door, and the director of S.AGI.L.D stood in front of me. Fury, Max Draco, CEO of Damage Control. I'm Nick Fury, director of S.AGI.L.D. Can I have a word? He asked, and after a moment I nodded and gestured for him to enter. So what do I owe the pleasure of your sudden visit, Director Fury? I asked, sitting back in my chair. Fury, I'm here because the world is on the precipice of a new age and very few people on our side want to see it that way, and far too many on the opposite side do, he said, grabbing a cup of water before sitting down on the couch closest to me. What do you mean by our side? I said, crossing my legs and leaning my head on my hand, and Fury smiled at me. Fury, the side that wants to do good to help people when they're in trouble and fix problems, he said, leaning back. With a swift motion, he dropped a coin-sized device that glowed blue and then projected a video of all the Titan attacks and hero activity that was caught by civilians. Fury, the world is changing, but we're not changing with it fast enough to keep up, and thanks to Damage Control's help to build Monarch bases and outposts we're starting to catch up, he said, and I gave a nod. What is it you want then? I asked, and he pressed a button on his wrist and the hollow images changed to show weapon designs using modified alien tech. Videos showed tests against dummies wearing modern military wear, and the results were extreme. These designs were taken from a base of a Rouge group and are ending up on the black market and into the hands of criminals, he said, and I nodded, remembering the weapons deal me and Artnix stopped. So S.AGI.L.D is falling behind in the comes to weapons game, I thought. Makes sense, but why are they coming to you? That's my question, I thought. I see your problem, but Damage Control doesn't deal with or make weapons. Why bring this to me and not Stark? I asked, and Fury nodded. Fury, Stark, as you might know, is out of the weapons game, meaning the next best is Stena or Hammer Industries, both of which are unreliable for S.AGI.L.D's needs, but we're running out of options and time, he said, and I nodded, understanding his reasoning. Stan Industries is run by the daughter of a supervillain and Hammer Industries is run by an incompetent businessman. I heard rumors that Stan's daughter is going to break away from her father. Why not go with her? I asked and a Fury nodded. Fury, we heard the same thing but it's not confirmed and we have no idea if Stan himself suspects something and has a plan, he said and I just shrugged. Then what does that have to do with you talking to me? I asked and Fury nodded. Fury, we want you to assess her and check if there is any real claim to the rumors and see what you can get out of her, he asked. But why ask me to do it? Why doesn't he just do his spy thing and talk to her himself? I thought. Probably wants to assess you as well. See if you can be a partner for S.HEI.L.D like Stark Industries. I nodded at Tron's comment but Fury thought I was nodding along and I looked at him. And what do I get out of this? I asked and Fury raised an eyebrow but nodded his head. Fury, S.HEI.L.D would be willing to cooperate with damage control and allow access to advanced technology, he said and I nodded. Very well Director Fury, you have a deal, I said and after discussing a few details he got up to leave. POV Night Fury. I sat on the crate watching as the 3 other clones messed with Atama as he was hoisted in the air wrapped in a flesh-like cocoon. Then out of the water came 3 more. Water elemental, all Atlantean troops and equipment have been killed and destroyed, he said and I saw Abyssal Lagiacrus and Kraken both had satisfied smiles on their faces and liked their lips. Kraken, how's Aguman and the kids? He asked and I gave him a thumbs up. Aguman will be fine in a few days, he's healing in the DG Vice. The kids are just fine. Dire Werewolf is watching them, I said and they gave me a nod. Then out of the tree line came Dryad Blackfire and Dark Sister in both hands covered in blood. Dryad, the island is purified of the Atlantean taint, he said and leaned against a tree. So what have you guys found? I asked the 3 as they messed with Atama. Zerg, it's truly fascinating their DNA. With it we could make a subspecies of aquatic Zerg, he said, eyes glowing with Shinik power, a cruel smile on his face. Blacklight, and we know all the locations of their military bases, staging grounds, logistics, and all Atlantean cities' locations across the world, he said, his eyes nothing but voids of black. Swarm Lord, we could cripple the Atlanteans right now. Let us feast on their salty blood and grow, the Swarm Lord said. Rows of sharp death and red eyes stared with anticipation at me but I shook my head. That's for the original to decide. Is said we have done our part and protected our territory but the Swarm Lord stomped on the ground and growled at me. Swarm Lord, our territory is a speck on in the middle of the ocean when we have a claim to the whole of the earth and all who live on it, he barked out and Zerg nodded. Zerg, we saw the vision. It is our destiny for us to conquer the earth, but then Dryad stepped forward. Dryad, and what of the war with Asgard we saw and what of the other vision? Its events have yet to begin, he said, getting a growl from the Swarm Lord. But Kraken, Abyssal Lagiacrus, and Water Elemental stepped forward. Enough, we will leave it for the original to decide. Is that clear? I said, releasing my aura, and both stopped and looked at me then nodded. Blacklight, what's to be done with Atama? He said, the cocoon now on the sand, and I thought for a moment. Like any good fisherman we release our catch but do leave a tag so we may recognize when we catch him again, I said, and we all looked at the warlord, grins on our faces. Swarm Lord, yes we do have the promise to keep, don't we? He said, mouth drooling. And remember, don't make it quick, so small bits, I said. POV Max Draco. So that happened, I said after making sure there were no bugs or tiny cameras in my room. I sat down again. So what are you going to do now? The party won't start for a few hours. You know I have 10 of these upgrade crystals and I haven't used one. Let's try one, I said, looking at my inventory. Item. Upgrade crystals times 10. A crystal that once applied to an item will improve it and repair any minor damage. Selecting one and applying it to Dragonslayer, the change was immediate with a blue screen appearing. Upgraded. Dragonslayer -- Berserker Sword. Item. Berserker Sword. Times 5 damage to dragons. Times 2 damage to spirits. Skill. Berserker Rage. Plus 10 strength per minute. Whistle, that's a major upgrade and the item gets a skill, I said, looking at the stats of Berserker Sword and the add-on of the skill attached to the blade. With 9 upgrade crystals left, I thought over what items I could upgrade but decided to leave them alone for now as I thought about what I would wear to the party. POV Nick Fury. I sat in the passenger seat with Maria driving us to our next destination, pondering about my interaction with Max Draco. Hill, are you sure it was a good idea to give damage control access to alien tech? She asked and I glanced toward her and saw a questioning look on her face. As much as I and the council wish we could keep the alien tech from people's hands, that became impossible as soon as the first alien died at a civilian's feet, I said, and Maria nodded her head. Hill, do we have any idea what he plans to do with the technology? She asked and I shrugged. What does any business do with something new? Find out how it can make them more money. In this case I suspect we will see the demand for damage control's construction increase in the coming months, I said. POV third person. Hours later. In front of a seaside mansion, a large group of news trucks and paparazzi stood aside a large carpet in front of a large metal gate as they tried to get the attention of those walking inside. Newswoman, we stand here in front of the private estate of Abhadia Stana, known as the Ironmonger, as Whitney Stana. His daughter holds a party for young, the next generation of the 1%, she said, only to stop as people clamored as a limo stopped in front of the gate. Paparazzi, oh my god, it's Warren Worthington, the son and heir to the Worthington Industry, the pharmaceutical company, one said, and stepping out of the limo was a young man wearing a gray and white suit with golden blonde hair and blue eyes. Photographer, holy shit, it's the Frost triplets, and stepping out of a pure white limbo were 3 identical girls with blonde hair and blue eyes. All 3 wore white shining dresses. Cameraman, man, even Thea Queen is here, and out of a sports car was a young girl with brown hair and emerald green eyes wearing a dark green dress. Newsman, and the ward and the adopted son of Bruce Wayne, Richard Grayson, and out came a young man with black hair and clear blue eyes wearing a black suit. Newswoman, look, it's Max Draco, future CEO of Damage Control, and out stepped a young man with black hair and radioactive green eyes. Image. POV Namor, King of Atlantis. Location, Atlantis. I stood over the broken and tattered form of Namor. His armor was bent and broken, his sword shattered with his left arm and right eye were missing. What did this to him? I asked the doctor and he simply gave me a look of concern. Physician, we have yet to identify any of the wounds on his body or what caused him to lose his arm or eye, but to be quite frank, it's a miracle he's alive, he said, but I shook my head. No, not a miracle, a message, one that I will heed for now, but once I have conquered the surface I will investigate this matter personally, I said, walking out of the room. Chapter 97 Party Crashers. POV Max Draco. Location, Stana Estate. Tron, I'm so bored right now, I thought as I sat at a table by myself and watched the party unfold in front of me. It hasn't even been 10 minutes since you got here. I know, but it feels like it's been hours. I leaned in my chair as I ate a grilled salmon. You haven't even tried talking to anyone. Yes, I have, I thought. Glaring at people who try to talk to you isn't trying. Hey, when someone here talks about anything other than money, politics, or gossip, then I'll try to remember their name, I said, only to notice a familiar girl approaching. Thea, is this seat taken? She asked and I gestured for her to sit. Thanks, been here less than 10 minutes and I'm running out of reasons to be here, she said, and I nodded my head. I'm wondering why I came here at all, I said, getting a smile from her. Thea Queen, the sister of Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow himself and his future sidekick. Using observation I saw she had yet to become a vigilante. Thea, I guess I should introduce myself. Thea Queen, she said, reaching out a hand, and I took it. Max Draco, I said, shaking her hand, and her eyes widened. You're the kid who got saved by Zilla, she said a little too loud as some people turned to look at us, and she quickly sat back down. What was it like? How big was he? She began to question me. Warren, Thea, I think you're getting a bit too excited. Turning to the new voice I saw Warren Worthington, or the Angel, standing in front of us, and I quickly used observation. Name Warren Kenneth Worthington 3. Title The Caged Angel, LV 11. Stats. STR 80. Dex 75. Int 67. Energy none. Skills. Wings, you have found your wings. Passive. User can fly from the wings. Thea, Warren, it's been forever, how have you been? She asked and he sat down next to her. Max, this is Warren Kenneth Worthington 3, she said, and I shook his hand. Warren, and you're Max Draco, but enough introduction, I assume you don't mind talking about your experience with Zilla, he asked, and I shrugged and told them the story. I told them the story and got to know the two as I answered some questions as well. It was an interesting conversation until I felt the familiar sense of a psyche probe. Unfortunately, unlike most times where I just let the probe wash over me like a stone in a river, I instinctually lashed out, throwing off the probe a second after it touched my mind. Only to then feel the three gazes of the Frost sister lock onto me a second later, completely ignoring the group of rich boys surrounding them, oblivious to them being ignored. Shit, didn't mean to do that, I thought as I continually tried to continue the conversation. Only to stop mid-sentence when I felt all three try and enter my mind, and I couldn't hold down a growl as I lashed out like a viper at them. Thea, are you okay? She asked, and I nodded my head, smiling sheepishly. Yeah, just a bit of a headache, I'll be fine, I said, fighting off another probing. I was very close to just walking over and butchering the three. Unlike Jean, who gave up on trying to enter my mind after one go, these three would back off only to come back like a wave. Whitney, Will, I'm sorry to hear that. Max Draco, do you need anything? A new voice asked, and turning around I saw the hostess herself, Whitney Stana. She was about my age with blonde hair that reached past her shoulders and pale blue eyes. She wore a pink dress that almost touched the ground. Nothing especially from a hostess who's already provided so much for her guests, I said, taking her hand just in time for another probing. Okay, that's it, I thought. Excusing myself politely, I got up and made toward the three sisters, who upon noticing my approach didn't look away. The three Frost sisters had sat themselves in a gazebo and surrounded themselves with boys and a few servants to fawn over them. As I approached, I tried to move past the group, but to my surprise, the group of boys did get in my way, and I was reminded of the anime trope of girls having fan clubs. I said, my aura projecting out, causing all the boys to suddenly get a clue and flee, leaving me alone with the three Frost sisters. Max Draco, to what do we owe the pleasure? She asked, and I simply glared at them, my aura not seeming to affect them. I'm only going to say this once, I said, each word brimming with frustration, but each kept a half-amused smile that I found infuriating. Sophie, oh, whatever do you mean? It's not our fault you find yourself charmed by our beauty, she said. Each relaxed, and I felt the mental probe again, this time lashing out. The three looked at me with surprise as my aura flared up, and to protect themselves put up mental barriers. Blood dripped from their noses as my aura pressed down on them. The three tensed as they tried to push against me, but I simply slowly unleashed more, causing the three to sweat as they tried to defend themselves. Celeste, what is this? She said, only for her defenses to finally crumble, and she fell unconscious and laid back in her seat. Sophie, wait, will st. A second later her mental warrior scattered, leaving her bowing as her sister fought on. Alright, well, stop, she said, but I just doubled my aura, causing her warrior to shatter, leaving her and her sister bowing. For a few more seconds I let them stay like that before pacifying my aura, letting them sit up. A moment later the unconscious one awake suddenly. Now you're going to answer some of my questions. If you don't, I'll make you all unconscious. If you lie or I simply don't believe or like what you say, I will make you beg for death, I said, leaning back in my chair. The three glanced at each other. What do you want to know? She asked. POV third person. Location, Monarch Outpost 15. You'd think watching over a 700-foot-long snake would be more interesting, said a man in a lab coat sipping a coffee. Actually, Titanus Ophiophagus is 656 feet long, the person next to him said as he watched the instruments in front of him. What made you think keeping a giant snake cold would be interesting? Said a woman leaning back in her seat, and the first man shrugs. I thought containing a Titan would be more interesting than watching beakers, but I guess I was wrong, he said, and after a few minutes the door to the room slams open. Wah bang bang bang. Control room clear, continuing the operation, said a man wearing military black gear as three more behind him walk into the room, closing the door. Alright, this will only take a moment, one said as he pushes the dead body out of the chair. Across the outpost to most, today is like every day until the alarms begin to blare across the outpost that stops everyone in their tracks. Alert temperature is rising in Titanus esophagus containment. Alert possible containment breach imminent. POV Nick Fury. Location, s.hei.l.dhq. Bam, what do you mean you've lost contact? I yelled, blaming my fist on the table. Saraizawa, we just got the alert a few minutes ago and have just lost contact with Outpost 15 a few moments before contacting you was successful. We need to contact the Prime Minister of Japan and begin an investigation, I said, and Saraizawa nodded. Saraizawa, I will have my team deployed as fast as possible, he said, and I nodded my head when I got a message. Draco, here's your information. You can talk to my board of directors to iron out the details of our deal. File attached. POV Max Draco. Putting away my phone, I tried to enjoy the party. Having got my information from the cuckoos, I sat back down with Warren and Thea. Warren, so what did you need from the Frost sisters? He asked as I sat down, and I shrugged. Just wanted to introduce myself, nothing more. Anything happen while I was gone? I asked. Thea, I wish the most interesting thing that's happened was a waiter dropping our food and drink, she said, and we had a good laugh. And just in time as a server comes to the table and drops off Warren and Thea's food. As he does, I notice something about the man and used observation, and my eyes widened at the info. Name Alexander Popov. Title hired gun. LV10. Stats. STR 25. Dex 25. Int 50. Energy none. Alexander, is there something wrong, sir? He asked, and I shook my head, and the hired gun left. Thea, you okay? Max, you look like you saw a ghost, she said, and I shrugged while looking around at all the servants using observation. I'm fine, just wondering if I'm going to eat anything else, I said. Looking around, I saw that most of the servants were mercenaries when a mission popped up. Mission, party crashes. Defeat the mercenaries from completing their mission. Bonus, no guests killed. Defeat the mercenaries as a monster. This could be fun, I thought to myself as I formulated a plan and excused myself to the bathroom. Going inside and locking the door behind me, I immediately created a duplicate of myself. Clone, so what monster are we thinking? It said, and I shook my head. I'll be deciding that you have a party to get back to, I said, throwing my clothes at the duplicate, who caught it and frowned and grumbled as he put on my clothes and left. Now what to choose? What haven't I used in a while? I said to myself, going down my increasingly long list of transformations. Bang bang bang. And it sounds like I'm out of time, I said as I transformed into Black Light Virus, and in an instant, I changed my appearance to that of Alex Mercer, and I smiled at my work when someone began banging on the door and my eyes glowed red. POV Alexander Popov. We know you're in there, so no point in hiding, I yelled, but after a moment got no response. Are you sure someone in there could have been your imagination? He said, and I shook my head. No, I definitely heard someone talking in there, I said, backing up to break down the door when someone put a hand on my shoulder, stopping me. Watch and learn, he said, pointing a shotgun at the door handle, and was about to pull the trigger. Crash! The door burst into splinters as a man wearing busted through it, coming from the inside, catching us by surprise. What the dash? Snicked. The man's hands and arms extended, turning into a black fleshy arm that ended with a large hand with each finger a blade that now was wrapped around my partner's head. I tried to bring up my gun, but I looked down only to see my and my partner's gun both cut into pieces on the ground. Wadesh, I began, but the man silenced me as his free hand morphed into a whip or identical that wrapped around my throat. Please, I'll tell you everything I know, Jew dash, my partner began to say when crack his skull was suddenly crushed in this man's hand. But it didn't stop there, as my partner's body began to get entangled in red tentacles that dragged his body into the man, and in just a few moments his body was gone. So you're not just robbers and thugs, you are after the girl and hired by her daddy, no less, he said, the identical around my throat tightening, making it almost impossible to breathe. Wawa.rrre.u, I said, search word coming out more as a sound, but the man cocked his head to the side. What am I? Well, that's simple, he said, lifting me and brought me in close, and as my vision turned black I heard him say, Chapter 98, New Toys and New Problems. POV Max Draco. I looked over the hostage situation that the party had become. All the guests have been put into one big group, with Whitney Stanette taken away from the group, with the regular waiters and servants tied up in the estate. What are they waiting for? I thought as I counted 15 hired guns. I guess it doesn't matter as long as I stop them. I turned into one of the hired guns I had killed and walked up to the group. 5 were talking quietly in a semicircular, the rest were spread out watching the surrounding area. What the hell happened? We lost contact with your group for 5 minutes, who I assumed was the leader said, and I nodded. Well, you see me and my partner get taken down by a guy with awesome powers, I said with a straight face, causing the group of third guns to look at me confused. Wait, Wadesh, he was about to say when in the blink of an eye I knocked them all out with a simple jab to the face. But to everyone else, it looked like they simply fell unconscious. I looked over to the stunned hostages, then to the rest of the hired guns, then back. You all might want to take cover, I said as I jumped into the air and came down fist first into one of the still stunned hired guns, putting him into the ground. F fucking kill it, one of them yells, and a hail of bullets land on me, but changing my density the bullets do nothing. Finally, at least try and fight back, it makes it so much more fun for me, I yelled over the gunshots that just bounced off me. Is this how Superman feels every time he deals with robbers using guns? I thought as I simply walked towards the hired guns, bullets dropping at my feet. Then one of the hired guns pointed his gun at the hostages, and I imminently threw out my arm, transforming it into an organic whip, and grabbed the gun and smashed it into his head. And after speed blitzing the rest of them before they followed that one's example and started firing at the hostages. Now how do I find out where they came from? I thought when I heard a groan and looked to see that one of the 5 I knocked out was slowly waking up. Walking over, I transformed my right arm into a clawed hand, letting the blade scrap on the ground, causing sparks. Wait, I sir dash, he began, but I grabbed him by the face and hoisted him in the air. You're going to tell me exactly what I want to know, I said, my eyes glowing red as I brought him close. I can't, they'll kill me, please, I dash. He began, only to stop and scream as I squeezed my blade fingers, cutting into his face. Stop, you've already won, there's no point in torturing him. And on my left was a young man I felt like I recognized, and using observation I saw it was Dick Grayson. Not until I get what I want, I said looking at him, and I squeezed ever so harder. Blood began to drip to the ground. Thea, he and his pals are eaten and the police are already on their way, so please just put him down, she begged, and I sighed. Fine, and since I'm such a nice guy, I began, and once I let go the guy's bleeding face was healed and the pain was gone in a few seconds, though the bodily liquids that stained his clothes and face remained. I heard everyone let out a sigh of relief except for my clone and the 3 cuckoos. As such I left speed blitzing away, making my way back to my hotel room unnoticed to wait for my clone. Mission, party crashes, completed. Defeat the mercenaries from completing their mission. No guests were killed. Defeat the mercenaries as a monster. Reward, 2x DG eggs, 1x Kyber crystal, 1x Beyblade and launcher. Man, isn't that nostalgic, but why would I need a toy? I said, going into my inventory and grabbing the Beyblade and launcher, and used observation to see its stats. Item, Beyblade. Name, the Dragon Emperor El Drago. Title, the Dark Dragon Emperor. Skills, Dragon Emperor Soaring Bite Struck, Dragon Emperor Soaring Destruction, Dragon Emperor Supreme Flight, Dragon Emperor Life Destructor. Holy shit, WTF, how does an item, let alone a glorified spinning top, has not only a title but 4 unique skills? I said, shocked at what I was seeing. Why not try it out? I have a feeling that's a bad idea, and I can't help but feel I know this one specifically is a problem, I said, trying to remember what I knew about the anime, but nothing came to mind. It can't be that bad if you don't remember, besides like you said it's just a spinning top. Yeah, okay, let's head out and test this thing out, I said. A few minutes later. Okay, this should be far enough away, I said. In the distance was the city, and I placed the Beyblade in the launcher, but I kept feeling that this was a bad idea. What's wrong? Nothing, I just keep getting a bad feeling, I said. Well, you could always try it later and teleport back. Yeah, I could, but I am already out here, so screw it, I said, aiming for a large rock not too far away. What was it they said before starting a match? Let it rip, I said, and pulled back on the launcher. Boom, crack. Oh, shit, did I break it? I said, slowly looking at the large rock that now had a dent in it and was cracked, and on the ground still spinning was the Beyblade. What would you be referring to, the broken stone or still spinning top? I'm more interested in the fact I barely pulled on the damn thing and it cracked a boulder. What would happen if I used one of its skills? I said, going over to the spinning top and licking it up. I'm more interested in what would happen if you used your full strength. Someone's death probably, and lots of collateral damage. Man, now I want to remember Beyblade, I said, looking at the unscratched top that just broke a boulder. What do you remember about it? Not much. I remember the theme song being pretty good actually, I said, closing my eyes and tried to focus but got nothing. After a few minutes of testing out the new item, I decided to store it for later and teleported back to find my clone standing and watching TV. Hey, Wadesh, I began, but my voice died in my mouth as I looked at the TV and saw a city burning and in chaos. We are reporting to you live as panicked citizens of Japan flee the city of Tokyo and other nearby towns, as word has somehow leaked that the Titan known as King Snake or Titanus Ophiophagus has somehow escaped containment, but rumor has it that it was an attack on the outpost, but Monarch, not Japan's government, have yet to comment. Shit, we need to go now, I said, but my clone gave me a concerned look. Clone, did you forget whose territory the Pacific Ocean is? He asked, and I stopped dead in my tracks. There hasn't been a single sighting of him since World War II. He's probably still asleep, one said, but my clone shook his head. Clone, and an Alpha Titan appearing near or in his territory won't wake him up or draw him to us if he is, the clone questioned, and I just stood there. Fine, if it comes down to it, then we submit, I said, and I felt something in me hate that idea, but what other choice was there? We fight. We would lose. He's the rightful king. Since when do we run from a challenge? This challenge is too great with too many risks. We are not cowards and we are not submitting. And if we die, what happens to the kids afterward? What if he comes for them or they go after him? Max, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine, just trying to figure out how I'm supposed to stop a Titan without using a Titan, I said, as my clone combined with me getting his perspective of the hostage situation. POV Nictatopoulos. Location, outside Outpost 55. I stood next to Elsie's shoulder as she analyzed the strange substance found across the now destroyed outpost. It had been just a few hours ago that we had gotten word, and as soon as we arrived got to work trying to figure out what happened. Well, what did you find? I asked as the printer next to her printed it out and Elsie looked it over and handed it to me. Elsie, well, the spectrometer says it's a mix of bioadhesives and well too, but it in layman's terms goo, she said, and from the tentfold came Monique and Randy walk in. Randy, we finished setting up the temporary camp and Mendel and a few others are monitoring N.I.G.L.E as he tracks the Titan, he said, and I noticed the grim look on Monique's face. Monique, we haven't found a single trace of the 12 missing personnel, but from eyewitnesses and traces of this slim we can assume the Titan took them, she said, and I nodded curtly. Well, find them and get them back, I said, but Monique shook her head. Monique, we need to focus on finding the Titan and find a way to contain it, not look for dead personnel, she said, and I looked to Randy, who shrugged. Elsie, well, that's easier said than done. The thing has a pretty good head start, she said, and just at that moment Mendel and I got worried. Mendel, are you okay? I asked, seeing my friend as pale as a ghost. Randy, yeah doc, you look like you saw a ghost or something, he added, and got an elbow to the side from Elsie. Mendel, we found the Titan, he began, but he didn't look happy about it as he handed me a pad with a video. Pressing play, I felt the others looming over my shoulder as we watched N.I.G.L.E enter a large cave, going deeper until the large snake. Randy, alright, so what's the dash, he began, but his words caught in his throat as N.I.G.L.E's vision panned over the area to find all the missing personnel stuck to the far wall fibers in good and unconscious. And under them was a nest full of eggs. From what I could count 12, but with the possible size of the nest there was probably more we couldn't see. Elsie, but that's impossible, she began but couldn't finish her sentence as the video continued. We heard a loud sound. SSSSSSSSS. N.I.G.L.E turned its head to the Titan's eyes open head only a few inches away from the robot's face before in the blink of an eye and miss it the video ended with a frame of the Titan's open mouth. Randy, get Serizawa on the line now, the situation has changed, I said, and RSNDY hesitated for a second before nodding his head and leaving the tent. Chapter 99 The Titan Problem. POV Nick Tatopoulos. Location, outside Outpost 55. Serizawa, this does change some things, he said, hearing what we find and our new information about the Titan. Fury, how exactly do a few eggs change things? Nick Fury asked with a cold tone, and he received a nod of agreement from the representative of the President of Japan. Elsie, the fact that no other Titan we have seen so far has produced offspring, all we know is that they do, but the finer details are completely a mystery to us, she explained. Mendel, this would be a great opportunity to observe the young Titans and see their life cycle, he said, and got a quick nod from Fury, understanding the situation. Representative, and what of the dangers this creature and its offspring will pose to Tokyo and other nearby cities and towns, not to mention its proximity to a natural park and Mount Fuji, all of which are popular tourist and thicker spots, he asked, a note of disapproval in his voice. Serizawa, I understand your worries, me representative, that is why we have Heat and our best reader hers working on all angles of the situation, he said respectfully, and the representative nodded. Fury, what are we going to do about the missing personnel? He asked, and we all glanced at each other. Nick, we're working on that, sir, but the situation is unique and with a lot of unknown factors. I began noticing the glances I was getting from everyone around me. Representative, perhaps we could use the assistance of some of your heroes to deal with this situation, he asked, and Fury simply shook his head. Fury, the Justice League and the Avengers are on standby or are deployed to other nations at the moment helping prepare for the possible Atlantean threat, he said, and just then a buzz was heard and Serizawa looked down and after a moment, had a smile on his face. Serizawa, that may not be a problem, I have just got word that Night Fury will be heading to Tokyo and Reed Richards and Susan Storm will be arriving tomorrow, he said. POV Max Draco. I sat up in my bed, the morning sunlight hitting my face just right through the window. I stretched and looked around a little confused. I didn't go to my dreamscape this time, I thought as I got out of bed and went to the living room to make breakfast and get ready to leave for Japan. Good morning, so when do we leave for Japan? Once I've eaten breakfast, I'll make a clone and set off for Japan, I said, grabbing a menu and my phone. What's the point of being rich if you can't get some expensive hotel service? I thought with a smile on my face. I watched TV until I got a knock at my door, and before I could even think of getting up, the door was unlocked and coming in with a food tray was multiple cute maids who set my table and food within less than a minute before bowing and leaving. If I ever need to come back to the West Coast, Tron reminds me to come to this hotel, I said, trying the scrambled eggs, pancakes, and grilled sausages. Finishing my breakfast, each plate and container emptied, I left my clone to catch a flight back to New York while I had decided how I was going to get to Japan. I must ask why your Phoenix and not Val's tracks, it's much faster. Well, I haven't used it before, besides I'm not going to use it all the time, just for a few minutes, then Thunderbird, then I'll finish the flight with Val's tracks, I said, selecting the monster and looking over its stats. Monster Phoenix. Title None. LV1. Stats. STR 55. Dex 120. Int 75. Energy 2000. Skills. Fire form I am Phoenix. Passive. You turn your body into the fire. Immune to all physical attacks. Magical attacks 50% chance of missing. Energy attacks 75% chance of missing. All who come into contact with your body take fire damage and are affected by burning damage. Fiery death and rebirth. Passive. When you die, you release all your unused energy and explode. You will be reborn within 24 hours or 1 week. Fiery talons. Eng 500. Set your talons on fire. They deal slashing damage along with fire damage and burning damage. Illumination sunshine. Eng 500. Become a second sun and all those who look upon you are blinded for 10 SEC for each second they look at you. If someone looks at you for 15 seconds, they are permanently blinded. Not bad stuff, definitely needs some more skills, but I can work on that later, I said to myself and teleported into the air and transformed fully. Warmth was all I felt, and I felt freedom like I never felt before as I flapped my wings and felt the wind brush my orange and red feathers. I let out a cry of joy as I flew far over the ocean, not knowing or caring that all of San Francisco heard my cry. Have I ever said how much I love flying? I thought as I flew between the clouds. Every time you fly with a new monster, actually. Thank Tron, I definitely wasn't trying to be sarcastic and enjoy the moment, I thought to myself, deadpanning. You're very much welcome, smiley face. I shook my head and dived down towards the ocean, only evening out once I was just above the surface of the water. After flying for a few more minutes in the form I changed to Thunderbird and imminently sensed the distinction between the two avians. The Phoenix felt like freedom and life. It was a fire that would go out eventually but will always reignite. The Thunderbird was almost the complete opposite as my wings expanded to be double the size. My bright fire-like feathers changed to be as black as the angry storm clouds. Power, thunder, a predator, that's what I felt as I flapped my wings and watched as the clouds around me, once white and puffy like marshmallows, changed to gray and clumped together and start to form storm clouds blocking out the sun I once enjoyed. Now I flew into those clouds and enjoyed the feeling of the shadow and the electricity passing through, and my cry sounded like thunder. Monster Thunderbird. Title None. LV1. Stats. STR 75. Dex 145. Int 55. Energy 3000. Skills. Storm Rider. Passive. You are surrounded by and change the environment to stormy weather. Can change the weather of your immediate area to create fog, dust storms, or high winds. Thunder Wings. Eng 500. When activated, when you flap your wings, deal sonic damage and knock back all enemies 25 feet. Lightning Cry. Eng 1000. Fire a bolt of lightning from your mouth that deals electric and sonic damage. Electrifying Talons. Eng 500. Charge your talons with electricity. They deal slashing damage along with electric damage and have a chance to stun enemies. The feeling of superiority built up inside me as with every beat of my wings lightning flashed and thunder boomed while I was in the growing storm, but I found no issue in flying inside of it, more did it impede my vision. Enjoying the feeling, I couldn't help but think when was the last time I had used my storm dragon form and had a little trouble remembering. The last time you used storm dragon was against Shaggy Man. I wonder if this is how Ben feels when he has so many aliens, I thought, transforming into Elder Val's tracks, and with a mighty roar, I took off becoming a red comet in the sky. POV Nictatopoulos. Location, outside Outpost 55. I stood outside Elsie's tent as she and Susan Storm worked on a way to dissolve the Titan's chemical solution, but I didn't wait long as the flap of the tent opened to reveal both women smiling. Elsie, good news, thanks to Susan, we finally found a solution that will dissolve the snake's glue, she said, and I nodded looking at all the military hardware that was being set up. Susan, I see you're enjoying the new security as much as the rest of us, she said, and I nodded. I had argued the need to not be viewed as threatening to the Titan and to remain a small camp. But the representative was adamant to have some kind of deterrent forces set up here and in the surrounding area just in case it made a move towards a populated area. Susan, any news from the others? She asked, and I shrugged. Mendel and Reed are still working on creating those drones from N.I.G.L.E's spare parts. Monique and Randy went to advise Major of these forces, I said, getting a nod from both. BZZ. When the sound of multi-buzzing filled the air before the shape of 4 small yellow drones flew off and walking over we saw Mendel and Reed looking at a laptop. Mendel, and we are fully operational, he said, and the two shook hands before noticing us standing there. Reed, the drones are on their way, and if the Titan moves, 3 will follow its movements, but passively they will monitor the environment inside and out of the cave, he said, and I nodded when Randy came running. Randy, guys, we got a major problem, he said, trying to catch his breath. The Major isn't here just for protection, he explained before trying to breathe again. Okay Randy, deep breaths now. What do you mean he isn't here just for protection? I asked, and after a few deep breaths, then he spoke. Randy, will Monique happen to notice some of the soldiers and hardware was a bit much, so I decided to do some digging, he said, plugging his phone into the laptop. Elsie, you hacked the Japanese military, she said, glaring at Randy. Reed, impressive, he said, only to get a glare from Susan. I mean wrong and irresponsible, he corrected himself. Mendel, what were you thinking? What if you had been caught? He asked, bewildered, and I stood by Randy's side. What did you find? I asked, getting a bewildered look from everyone and a smile from Randy. Randy, the Major and his troop have a few other objectives, he said, and multiple files and emails appeared. I glanced over it all and I felt my hand clench in rage and my blood go cold. Mendel, Will, what are they doing? He asked, concerned, and Elsie put a hand on my shoulder, causing me to relax. They want to capture the eggs, or at the very least destroy them, I said, my voice cold. Susan, for what purpose could they possibly want dash? He began, but Reed interrupted her. Reed, a domesticated Titan, he said loud enough for everyone to hear, his mind somewhere else, not even noticing the looks from everyone he was getting. Mendel, that's actually brilliant, he said, holding his chin in his hands until he noticed me, Elsie, Randy, and Susan starting what I'm just saying, he defended, raising his hands. Elsie, what it is insanity and completely unorthodox, she berated, and goes against what Monarch stands for. We studied these creatures and contain them if we can, but our main goal is to find a way to live with the Titans, not control them, I said, going over the documents with a more detailed look. Reed, but could lead to humanity and Titans coexisting in peace, he argued, but I shook my head. You call putting a leash with a chain on them peaceful coexistence? No, this is steps to nations using the Titans as weapons, I said. Mendel, Nick, these are creatures that can wipe out cities. Why not look at every option available? He asked. Susan, I can't believe we're actually arguing about this when Night Fury gets here dash. She began, only for Monique to run over. Monique, the Titan has left its face and is headed this way, she shouted, and we all ran, and the sound of soldiers and military vehicles drowned out our steps. We made our way to the front of the camp that faced the destroyed outpost. Those who were investigating left their tools and ran past the soldiers and vehicles that quickly got into position in front of the camp. For a few minutes, there was an uneasy silence. The only sound heard was the running engines of the military until the ground started to shake and a close of dust appeared in the distance. There was a shout, and suddenly all the military personnel was firing everything. Artillery shells sailed through the air and bombarded the area. Scurries. A roar of rage rang out, and raising through the dust cloud was the shape of Titanus Ophiophagus, aka King Snake. Elsie, they need to stop firing. Their guns aren't doing anything but agitating the Titan, she yelled over the sound. Looking around, I found Major standing next to one of the tanks looking at the Titan. Stunned, I ran up to him. Major, you need to call off your attack now and call back your men before the Titan retaliates, I said, sampling the stunned Major out of his trance. But it was too late, as suddenly the panicked screams of the soldier were heard. The Titan sprayed the soldiers and vehicles with its adhesive. Elsie, Susan, the solution, I shouted, but Els shook her head. Elsie, it would take us hours to make enough to dissolve this much of its adhesive, she shouted back. Randy, guys, we don't have hours, he yelled as the Titan made its way towards them. Storm Dragon roar. The words echoed, and that followed, and then a tornado suddenly appeared right in front of us, and it pushed the snake back as it was struck by lightning, rain, hail, and high-speed winds. So you guys look like you could use some help. And turning towards the voice floating in the air, large blue wings and tail, was Night Fury. Chapter 100 Uninvited Guests. POV Night Fury. Location, outside Outpost 55. I floated down to meet Susan and Reed with HEA.T, who I recognized instantly, and looked around at the mass of riders and vehicles stuck and incapacitated in goo. So this all seems terrible, I said, and I was quickly given a summary of what happened and nodded. Mendel, what do we do? Evaluate, he asked, only to panic when King Snake got back up. I shook my head and spread my wings. You wouldn't even make it a few feet down the mountain, I said, and flew up toward King Snake's head. Asterisk, why do you attack Great Titan? Asterisk, I asked, and I almost laughed seeing the giant snake's confused look. K.Snake, asterisk QR. I don't know what you are, but you look human but smell like a prideful dragon, asterisk it said in a voice deep and raspy. So other dragons do exist, that's good to know, I thought, clearing my voice. I am Night Fury, I wish to help Titans and humans find peace, please tell me why you attack, I said, and the snack stared at me for a few seconds then looked at the humans below. Snake, they threatened my nest and trespasses in my territory, he said, and I nodded. I will escort these humans out of your territory, but I must tell you that humans enjoy your territory to return to nature and escape their concrete cities. I would ask that they be allowed to continue this practice, I asked, and the snake nodded its head in acceptance. Snake, very well, but if they approach my nest or threaten me or my hatchling they shall feast on them, he growled out, and I nodded and bowed my head as the giant snake turned and slithered away. I released a breath and floated back down to see everyone who hasn't stuck completely flabbergasted faces as they surrounded me and bombarded me with questions. What happened up there? Did you just talk to a Titan? How did you get it to leave? After a while, everyone calmed down enough for me to speak. I could have just used Dragon's aura to shut them up, but I decided against it. Yes, I spoke to the Titan. I will answer all your questions, but first you all need to get out of here, I said seriously, causing everyone to look at me funny. After explaining the situation, scientists and researchers decided that they would continue to monitor the Titan by air using drones and satellites. The military, on the other hand, it's simple: move your shit and your soldier away from the nest and leave them alone, I told the major and representative. But they wanted to have more incentives so that the Titan wouldn't attack anyone. I tried to express how breaking the agreement I had struck with the Titan would be an awful idea. But they wanted more than the word of a monster. At that I made it abundantly clear that they wouldn't get anything more, and that if they attack, threaten, touch, or take a video of the Titan I do not like, then they are fucked. After that, it became clear I wasn't wanted, but I left with the final word. If you all want to be stupid and get your soldiers and citizens killed, fine by me, but I do wonder what makes you think you can do anything to win against a Titan, I said, walking out of the warehouse office. As I made my way outside, I was about to teleport when I saw some of Heat and Susan Storm talking, so I walked over. Randy, wait, he can turn into monsters like dragons, Bigfoot, and chupacabras, he said, and Susan nodded. Susan, yep, it's quite fascinating. He even showed me some of his transformations, she said, showing pictures she had drawn from when I took her back to Lumeria. You know, it's not nice to talk about people behind this back, especially not while they're standing right in front of you, I said, getting a yelp from Mendel. Susan, it's not their fault, they're just curious and ask some questions, she said, and I nodded. What kind of question? I asked, and Randy stepped forward before anyone could speak. Randy, okay, first question, what's the biggest monster you can transform into? He asked, and I was not expecting such a straightforward and simple question. If I don't count my Titans, then either Storm Dragon or Elder Val's Trax, I thought, trying to recall the size of my monster. Storm Dragon is 2 feet longer in all categories than Elder Val's Trax, with Indominus Rex in third place. That would be my Storm Dragon. It's also the one I used to communicate with King Snake, I said, and also thanking Tron for the info. Elsie, and how does that work? I mean, you weren't even fully transformed and you were a different species, she asked, and I shrugged. I had no idea. I could probably figure it out if I got the orca working, but why to risk it, I thought. Randy, okay, what's your fastest monster? He asked, and I shrugged. Depends, are we talking about air, ground, or water? I asked him, said, tubing my chin. If air, then Val's Trax, ground would be XLR8, and water would be Lagiacras, I said, nodding at my conclusion. Susan, so how did the meeting with the representatives go? She asked, and I simply shook my head. That bad, she said, and I nodded. That want incentives that King Cobra won't attack Tokyo or another populated area, I said, getting a confused look from Randy. Randy, but you talked to the big danger noodle, what more do they want? He asked, and I shrugged. I have no idea, all I know is it's not my problem, I said, waving my hand. Alright, I'm getting out of here, see you guys back in New York, I said, teleporting to Nighthawk Island. Clone, so how was the West Coast? My clone asked, and I shrugged as he combined with me, and I fell to one knee as the many memories and emotions were forced into their place in my memory, becoming one. The day out, Jason's kidnapping, my rescue, clearing out the forest before arriving just in time, the rage I felt seeing Greymon's horn broken, and in Atuma's hand the feeling of my fists, claws, and teeth breaking his bones. Then the information from Atuma I gained, the military and political situation that was happening under the ocean waves. Then the primal urge of conquest, the images of an army of monsters with me at its head as I swept through the ocean floor before forcing all the ocean kingdoms to bow their crowns at my feet. Then the images of the visions I received from the Force Swords flashed in my mind on a far-flung possible future, the other a series of events leading to him showing up. After the snake wakes up, Magneto attacks Paris for some reason, then Supergirl arrives off the coast of a city, I thought, standing up slowly. Max, are you alright? I'm fine, just a lot of information all at once. Think I'm going to sit down for a minute, I said, teleporting onto the couch and letting the headache slowly fade away as I started to think. So are we just going to wait for Magneto to attack Paris? One voice asked. We don't even know why he was attacking. It could be for a good reason. What reason would justify attack France? Lots of reasons: the Sentinel program, anti-mutant policy, and many other reasons. Okay, but what if we do need to fight Magneto? We need to start thinking about possible monsters to counter him. These thoughts raged in my mind as I tried to relax and think of what I wanted to do, when all of a sudden I felt something in my hand. Looking over, I saw Luna looking up at me. What are you doing up, Luna? I thought you were asleep with your Artnix, I said, petting the small dragon's head. Her purple eyes looked up at me. Then out of nowhere, there was a flash of violet light. I quickly covered my eyes, then looked back to see a little girl with long black hair and deep purple eyes sitting next to me, a smile on her face. Image. When. How? I said, unable to find the word for the sudden development. Luna, Papa, she said happily, small wings and tail extended from her back. You have received double damage to your heart, critical hit. How about we go surprise your brothers and sister? I said, picking the giggling girl up. POV Scientist Supreme. Location? I stood on the balcony of my office looking over the large cavern and the massive skeleton of a dead Titan as the constitution of Project Nemesis continued on schedule. Sir, Project Muto is ready, sir, and news from Japan. Titanus dash, the man began, and I simply put out my hand behind me for the data pad, and a second later I felt the pad and looked at it. Monarch containment outpost failing predictably. Possibly was attacked. Interesting. Night Fury talks Titan down. Fascinating. Japan looking for other options. I want Walter Simmons to approach the Japanese government and offer Apex's services, and when they offer a response, release the Mutos. I ordered, and I heard the shuffling before the door closed. So what pathetic plan has your mind come up with now, little man? A voice said that caused any good mood I was in to turn sour. Looking behind me in the room was the reason why A.I.M existed, an alien, but from the outside perspective she looked human, but what little DNA we got off her confirmed she was indeed an alien. She was 7.1 feet tall with black hair put in a ponytail and wore black and grey armor that covered her comply, not even a mouthpiece or eye holes. After the incident with the mother box and contact was made, she was sent as a gift to me, but I knew that she was an agent sent to gather information on our world and its factions and situation. But I also knew that no one in our employ could hold a candle to her, and I had made Dr. Marrow continue with his Project Red, but nothing from that project had been able to last more than a few minutes against her. And I'm certain she was just playing with those robots like a cat with a mouse. I thought as I sat at my desk. The female sat on my desk looking down at me. An opportunity has shown itself, and hope to strike while the iron is hot, which means I have a mission for you. I said. The woman's posture didn't change even in the slightest, but the aura she emitted turned from mild curiosity to interest. Oh, do tell, she said, her seductive tone making me want to spit. A possible new player in the game. I want you to take a team and investigate the Monarch Outpost 55 in Japan and find out what caused its collapse, I said, and she nodded, looking away in thought, but most likely she had some kind of computer in the suit looking up more information. You wouldn't happen to know if this Night Fury is still around, would you? She asked, a tone of eagerness. Maybe, but I shook my head. He has left after some kind of disagreement with the Japanese government. His location is unknown, I said, and she visibly sagged in disappointment. Such a shame, she said, and I held back on asking why, for knew I wouldn't get a straight answer. This is a stealth mission. Just do your investigation, then come back and report, I said in a commanding tone that would leave others shivering. She, on the other hand, just nodded. And if, say, hypothetically we had some witnesses, she said in a playful tone that made my blood turn cold. No witnesses. Make it look like an accident or simply disappear, but do not leave any evidence of us behind, I said, and I heard her giggle in excitement as the door closed behind her.